Chapter 1806, bold Xiao Yunduan's expression twisted into a sneer. No doubt it's their doing. Rest, my wife. I'll return once I've dealt with these. Qiao Xian nodded, her concern evident. Please go quickly. Jia Heming must be badly hurt. Don't disappoint him. Xiao Yunduan wasted no time and headed towards Jia Heming's location. The urgency of Sun Bei's report hinted at the severity of Jia's injuries. Upon arrival, Xiao Yunduan was met with the sounds of Jia Heming's screams of pain emanating from the treatment room. He halted the well-wishers and approached Jia Heming directly. How serious is it? Are you in good hands? The doctor greeted him respectfully before offering his assessment. Lord, the injuries are mostly external, but there are more severe wounds on his left leg, arm, and lower back, including internal injuries. I've prepared medication to be taken thrice daily. If his condition stabilizes after 3 days, we can expect improvement. However, we must monitor for signs of concussion. He must rest and avoid strenuous activity. We'll reassess his condition in 3 days. Some of the external injuries will heal with proper treatment. The doctor's sympathetic sigh hinted at the severity of Jia's ordeal. Who could have orchestrated such a vicious attack against Scribe Jia? Jia Heming grimaced through the pain, his voice strained with bitterness. It's my own incompetence that led to this. I never anticipated such a betrayal. Xiao Yunduan's features hardened. Nor did I. Even he was taken aback by the audacity of the Fan clan's actions. Jia Heming, a scribe from the state government office, had approached the Fan family for official business. Not only did they refuse to cooperate, but they also had the audacity to confront him after he issued an ultimatum. Despite lacking intermediate officials or cultivated talents in the imperial court, the Fan family dared to provoke the officials to such an extent. A true local troublemaker. Given their lawlessness, Xiao Yunduan couldn't fault Jia for his predicament. With the doctor gone, Xiao Yunduan spoke in a hushed tone, urging Jia to recount the events slowly to avoid aggravating his wounds. Grateful for the Lord's attention, Jia Heming began by detailing the Fan family's refusal to cooperate with official matters. Their behavior had escalated, culminating in a confrontation when he issued the ultimatum. Initially, he was met with silence from the Fan family, but when he persisted, their servants aggressively chased him away. His fate didn't surprise him. However, upon returning home that evening, he fell victim to a plot. Xiao Yunduan turned to Sun Bai, his gaze unwavering. Find out who's responsible and bring them to me. Then, launch an investigation into the Fan family. I want certainty. Though the Fan family likely orchestrated the attack, confirmation was necessary. Gathering evidence would be challenging, as it wouldn't be straightforward, and the Fan family would likely deny involvement, claiming they were framed. Taxation remained paramount, and Xiao Yunduan had no intention of being entangled in trivial matters. It wasn't worth it. As long as he confirmed that it was the Fan family who did it, he would teach them a lesson. One day tomorrow. Is that enough? Sun Bai nodded. Lord, it won't take a day. All right, go. Yes, Lord. Chapter 1807, Investigate. Xiao Yunduan turned his gaze to Jia Heming. You can recuperate here in the office. Tomorrow, I'll arrange for Madam to bring your wife to take care of you. Don't worry about the medicine. His financial means could cover the medical expenses. Jia Heming's heart warmed, and he nodded in acknowledgement, enduring the pain as he cupped his hands and offered a slight bow. Thank you, Lord Euro, rest well, Xiao Yunduan replied with a nod, casting a final glance at him before turning and exiting. He instructed an officer to attend to Jia's needs. Meanwhile, Sun Bai wasted no time in mobilizing a team to investigate the assailant who attacked Jia Heming. The Fan family wouldn't directly leave evidence behind in such matters. They would likely conceal their identities and bribe local thugs to carry out their dirty work. These thugs were known for their readiness to commit any misdeed for the right price, particularly relishing opportunities to prey on the vulnerable. Such individuals were like parasites within the city, recognized by nearly everyone in their circles. As the constable of An's prefecture, Sun Bai was intimately familiar with the dark underbelly of the region. These nefarious characters couldn't be eradicated entirely. As long as they operated within certain boundaries and didn't draw too much attention, they would evade scrutiny. However, when incidents occurred, it was relatively easy to uncover the truth within their network. Despite being newcomers, these thugs had established their own territories, each with its own leader. Within their respective zones, only locals could undertake tasks, and outsiders couldn't encroach upon their territory without consequences. However, if someone from another area undertook a job and passed it along, they would receive a portion of the proceeds. An's province, with its relatively small population and straightforward demographics, was rife with banditry, particularly due to the presence of several bandit nests nearby. These groups placed great emphasis on territorial boundaries, instilling fear in anyone who dared to infringe upon their domain. Sun Bai was well aware of these dynamics. While a powerful clan like the Fan family might not grasp the intricacies of the underworld, he did. All he needed to do was locate the gang leader in the area and inquire about who had accepted the job that night. Fear of reprisal from the authorities kept most people compliant, but outright resistance was another matter entirely. There was no need for Sun Bai to undertake this task personally. Accompanied by 2 skilled and trusted aides, he stealthily infiltrated the Fan family's mansion under the cover of night. The Fan family employed 2 martial artists to guard their estate, along with training their young and robust servants in basic combat techniques. Such precautions were common among the affluent families of An's province, where wealth often meant being a target for various threats. In the martial arts world, home guards required considerable upkeep. They demanded quality food, clothing, lodging, transportation, and even a servant, with the going rate this year hovering around 500 taels. The better the guard, the higher the price commanded. Take, for instance, the Mei family's renowned guards, each fetching a yearly salary of 1,000 taels of silver for their services. However, the Fan clan operated differently. They needed robust manpower for woodcutting and transportation in the mountains, preparing for potential emergencies. Consequently, they couldn't afford such lavish expenditures. Their guards were paid a modest sum of 400 taels annually, reflecting their limited martial prowess. With such lax security, sneaking in for Sun Bai would be as effortless as flipping his hand. It seemed unlikely that the 2 old masters of the Fan family would orchestrate such a clumsy scheme. More likely culprits were either old lady Fan herself or the great-aunt who had inherited her cunning. Interrogating their trusted aides wouldn't prove too troublesome. Chapter 1808, Capture Xiao Yunduan's inevitable clash with the 3 big families loomed closer with each passing day. Since his arrival, Sun Bai and his team had meticulously gathered intelligence on the inner workings of these influential households, familiarizing themselves with the layouts of their mansions. Without hesitation, Sun Bai made his move, targeting Fan Ruyan and her husband's courtyard. Fortune smiled upon him as he apprehended Granny Hang, Fan Ruyan's confidante, in the dead of night. Awakening to a sharp blade at her neck, the old woman trembled in terror, spilling every detail at Sun Bai's prompting. She absolved herself of blame, insisting she was merely a messenger, with Madame Yuezheng and Fan Ruyan orchestrating the scheme through the housekeeper. Unmoved by her pleas, Sun Bai swiftly rendered her unconscious and departed under the cloak of darkness. Simultaneously, the government office executed another successful arrest. Locating the local gang leader, they briefed him on the situation. With a knowing smile, the gang leader promptly dispatched his subordinates to investigate. In less than 2 hours, they had their suspects. 4 individuals, quivering with fear, were brought in for questioning. These street-smart individuals swiftly realized the gravity of their situation. Having accepted a job mere hours earlier, each pocketing 8 taels of silver, they now found themselves in custody. It was clear that their sudden apprehension was no coincidence. In the shadows of the night, the intricate web of deception and intrigue continued to unravel. Regret gnawed at the 4 of them. They knew they shouldn't have accepted the job. Stealing small items from market stalls was one thing, but crossing paths with officials was an entirely different matter. Even though Jia Hemming was just a lowly scribe, harming him was akin to insulting the entire government office. Their ill-fated decision had caught up with them. Trembling with fear, they dared not deceive their boss. Confessing immediately, they knelt on the ground, pleading for clemency. But mercy was not forthcoming. They were swiftly escorted back to the government office and thrown into jail. The following morning, Xiao Yunduan oversaw a public interrogation. The four were swiftly convicted, sentenced to 30 strokes of the cane, a fine of 20 taels of silver, and 6 months' imprisonment. Meanwhile, news of the proceedings reached Jia Hemming's wife, Ms. Fong, who had come to the office to check on him. Witnessing the swift justice being meted out, she felt a sense of vindication. Wiping away her tears, she hurried back to her husband's side. Grateful for the support, she reflected on the kindness shown by Lord and Lady Xiao. They had offered comfort and assurance, promising justice for her husband and ensuring he wouldn't suffer in vain. Madame Xiao stayed true to her promise. The spectators erupted into murmurs. Those with hidden agendas had to tread even more cautiously. Lord Xiao was clearly standing firmly behind the government officials. Among the prominent families, it was widely believed that the Fan family was behind this incident. However, no one expected the government to respond so swiftly. What transpired last night was resolved by morning. Clearly, the culprit had been apprehended overnight. Lord Xiao showed no leniency whatsoever. Many speculated about the sanity of the Fan family. What could have prompted old Lady Fan to act so recklessly? It seemed she was the only one capable of such brazen behavior. Chapter 1809, Going to the Fan family. If old Lady Fan had refrained from touching Scribe Jia, perhaps there would have been a chance to negotiate with Lord Xiao. They could have facilitated a few years of transition. But now, who could predict if Lord Xiao would still be around after that time? Yet, she couldn't risk causing trouble for Lord Xiao herself. Instead, she resorted to paying hooligans to rough up Scribe Jia. Now, her options for retreat were blocked. Despite Lord Xiao's potential retaliation, no one dared to speak against him. News of the interrogation results swiftly reached the Fan family. Old Lady Fan sneered, "He got off lightly." She harbored no regrets, nor did she feel any fear. Just a twinge of irritation at Xiao Yunduan's unexpected swiftness. Nanny Hang was privy to the events as well. Recalling the previous night sent shivers down her spine, her legs almost giving way from fear. She wouldn't dare breathe a word about what happened, not even to her master. Pretending it never occurred seemed the safest course. Yet, she dreaded the thought of that person returning or implicating her. Nanny Hang, usually resolute in aiding Fan Ruyan, now felt a disquieting unease. Her instincts warned her of impending trouble. Upon the verdict's announcement, Zheng Sang and his men barricaded the Fan family's exits, preventing anyone from leaving. The entire Fan clan was thrown into shock. And the news spread like wildfire throughout An's province, drawing a crowd outside the Fan family's gates, swelling with each passing moment. It resembled a bustling fair, if not even livelier. When old Lady Fan received the news, she was in the midst of sipping cubelos soup with Fan Ruyan and Bairuerue. Old Lady Fan nearly flung the cubelos bowl from her grasp. Absurd. What kind of twisted logic is this? Her voice crackled with anger as she rose to her feet. "I'll see who dares to stop me from leaving." "Mom." Fan Ruyan was taken aback but quickly intervened. "Please, calm yourself. You're the matriarch of our family, our guiding light. There's no need for you to personally handle such trivial matters. I assure you, there's no evidence left from last night's incident. If anyone dares to confront us, they'll have to apologize." Old Lady Fan softened at her daughter's words. "If you say so, then fine." Fan Ruyan smiled reassuringly. "I'm certain." The silver he handed over appeared as ordinary banknotes. The messenger sent to deal with the hooligans was a trusted servant from the village, his face obscured. As for witnesses, they were easily swayed or coerced by the government into falsehoods and framing others. Lord Xiao's influence was indeed formidable. And where were elder brother and second brother when all this happened? And sister-in-law and second sister-in-law? Fan Ruyan seized any opportunity to tease her siblings, a habit she couldn't seem to break. Old Lady Fan's expression darkened at the mention, a disdainful snort escaping her lips. First Old Master Fan and Second Old Master Fan rushed in, their wives trailing anxiously behind. Mother, what's happening? Yes, what is Lord Xiao playing at? Despite her initial displeasure at Fan Rian's jab, Old Lady Fan's frustration dwindled slightly. Chapter 18:10, Locking the Door. Why would I know? Are you here to interrogate me? Eldest Old Master, Second Old Master, and their wives stood in stunned silence, exchanging bewildered glances. They couldn't fathom why their mother was once again directing her anger towards them. First Madame Fan and Second Mrs. Fan, positioned nearby with lowered heads, inwardly sneered. Was there even a need to ask? Couldn't they see who was standing right here? Had she ever refrained from meddling? No, Mother, please don't misunderstand. We came specifically to discuss how to handle this situation, Eldest Old Master stammered. Yes. Second Old Master chimed in. Old Lady Fan's sneer deepened. They're already at our doorstep. What do you propose? They want to accuse the Fan family without evidence. Do they think we're pushovers? Chase them away, quickly. Initially, the two old masters harbored some hope, but now, they were convinced their mother must have orchestrated the assault on Jia Heming the previous night. And their biological sister was likely involved too. They felt utterly powerless. This wasn't the time for reckless confrontation with Lord Xiao. They needed to strategize, consider all options and escape routes before making a move. How could they act so impulsively? Jia Heming was a clerk from the state government office, a member of the government. Everyone in An's province knew he was Lord Xiao's right-hand man. Striking him would be a direct affront to Lord Xiao. Was Lord Xiao someone to trifle with? The individuals assaulted the previous night and the hired hooligans were apprehended. Today, the hooligans faced severe punishment, and now, someone had come to the Fan familiar. The two brothers sighed inwardly, knowing better than to criticize their mother. They often joked that their biological sister could provoke their mother with just 10 words. Mother, fret not. We'll handle the negotiations. Without evidence, it's not easy to tarnish our family's name, Eldest Old Master assured. Then get on with it. Old Lady Fan snapped. The brothers felt a slight relief. If their mother spoke so confidently, the other party likely lacked evidence. They trusted her judgment. Though she could be domineering, she wouldn't leave herself vulnerable to accusations. As long as there was no evidence, they should be fine. Accompanied by the butler, guards, and servants, the brothers swung the door open with a resounding bang, fixing stern gazes on Zheng Sang and his cohorts. The air grew taut, charged with tension. Constable Zheng, what's the meaning of this? Eldest Old Master's voice cut through the silence, his demeanor icy. Zheng Sang met his gaze squarely. He scoffed, a faint smile playing on his lips. Are you truly unaware, or are you feigning ignorance? Don't play dumb. Second Old Master retorted sharply. Constable Zheng, refrain from baseless accusations. Evidence is required for any claims. Indeed. Lord Xiao is known for his integrity and clear judgment. It's inconceivable he would resort to tyranny, Eldest Old Master added. Zheng Sang chuckled. Our Lord embodies fairness and clarity, which sometimes invites the misconception that he's easily manipulated. It's best you come clean now. Refusal may not bode well. Preposterous. Second Old Master snapped. We won't confess to a crime we didn't commit. Just because Scribe Jia was assaulted doesn't implicate our family. Without evidence, you have no grounds to target us. Chapter 18:11, to reveal what one was intended to hide. First Old Master Fan sneered, his gaze challenging. Zheng Sang met his stare head-on. Do you share his sentiment? Absolutely, First Old Master Fan replied, his tone deliberate. We believe in reason and legality. Zheng Sang smirked. So, you also believe Scribe Jia's situation has no bearing on your family? It's irrelevant. Zheng Sang's smirk deepened. Interesting. So, the assault on Scribe Jia, leaving him severely injured, is entirely disconnected from the Fan family. But when did I mention Scribe Jia? Realization dawned on the faces of those present. Indeed, Constable Zheng had never once mentioned Scribe Jia. The Fan family's old masters had brought him up unprompted. It was a clear indication of guilt, a slip-up revealing what they sought to conceal. The two old masters stood dumbfounded, realizing they'd been outmaneuvered. Though not admissible in court, the implication was glaring to all present, a humiliating blow. Scribe Jia's assault last night and Constable Zheng's visit this morning naturally raised suspicions. Why else would you be here? First old master attempted to rationalize. Zheng Sang scoffed. You truly don't know why I'm here? Yet, you immediately jumped to the conclusion of Scribe Jia's involvement. Perhaps you're overly perceptive or conveniently forgetful? Make yourself clear. Second old master Fan had learned his lesson and was no longer led by the nose by him. Zheng Sang brandished the document Jia Hemming had delivered to the Fan family the previous day, his tone icy. Scribe Jia has visited your premises thrice. You should be well aware of his purpose. Today marks the deadline for your cooperation with the government's investigation into your fields. Refusal will result in consequences. So, will you accompany me now to aid in the thorough investigation, or shall I proceed to seal the residence? Lord Shao insists on resolution today. Non-compliance will lead to immediate sealing of your residence, followed by your shops tomorrow. Subsequently, stewards from all Fan family farms will be summoned to the government office until you comply. Mind you, Lord Shao cares for his subjects like his own kin. Your family may dispatch one individual, accompanied by 2 servants, for daily purchases. However, all carriages must undergo inspection, with only the coachman permitted to accompany them. Do you two have anything else to say? The hearts of the 2 old masters of the Fan family turned cold. They had really forgotten about this. This was because they had never thought that the government would have the guts to do this to the Fan family. They were acutely aware of the numerous fertile fields the Fan clan had kept hidden and unregistered. If they were to rectify this now, it would mean relinquishing further sums of money annually. And the inevitable upheaval at their mother's residence loomed large. They might even have to dip into their personal funds to smooth things over. The mere thought of it caused a pang of anxiety. Among the onlookers, murmurs spread like wildfire. So that's the situation. Lord Shao means business. It's about time. Why do these wealthy families avoid taxes? Exactly. With all their wealth, they still resort to such underhanded tactics. Shameless greed, I say. Chapter 18:12, Mixing. The richer you are, the stingier you are. Who would think that they have too much money? That's what Lord Shao should do. These 2 old masters are interesting. They actually forgot such a big matter and actually confessed. Hee. Hang on. Zheng Sang's gaze gleamed with confidence. His entourage comprised individuals of utmost utility, some his own trusted allies, others former bailiffs now honed into formidable agents. Their presence alone exerted a palpable pressure on the Fan family. And even if, by some miracle, the Fan family could muster the strength to oppose them, who would dare attack officials in broad daylight, especially after witnessing the fate of those hooligans? Risking a beating and imprisonment was simply unthinkable. The 2 old masters of the Fan family grasped the grim reality. Unless they conceded defeat, there was no end in sight to this standoff. Perhaps they could have negotiated, but after the events of the previous night, such a prospect seemed futile. Lord Shao wouldn't entertain further discussions. Moreover, criticism of Lord Shao was off limits. After all, the Fan clan had initiated hostilities. Even lacking concrete evidence, their guilt was clear to all. But capitulating under such circumstances would be a bitter pill to swallow. Just then, Deputy Prefect Guan hurried over with 2 attendants. His heart skipped a beat at the sight before him. After exchanging pleasantries, he addressed the pressing issue at hand. This situation can't be allowed to linger. We must find a resolution. How about this? First old master Fan, second old master Fan, let's convene inside and discuss matters further. Seeing a potential resolution, the 2 old masters of the Fan family breathed a sigh of relief, nodding in agreement as they courteously ushered Deputy Prefect Guan into the Fan residence. Having Deputy Prefect Guan present was ideal. He could facilitate discussions with their mother. Zheng Sang raised no objections, personally positioning his men to guard the residence's entrance, ensuring no one could leave while allowing entry. He mused that Lord Xiao's judgment had been correct. Deputy Prefect Guan should have remained in the crowd, intervening only as a last resort. Since Lord Xiao had assigned this task to him, it was fitting for him to take charge now. He anticipated the outcome of negotiations between Deputy Prefect Guan and the Fan family. Old Lady Fan was notorious for her stubbornness. As expected, Old Lady Fan erupted in fury, hurling curses in Deputy Prefect Guan's direction. Though not explicitly directed at him, he still felt uneasy. After all, he held a middling official position. Yet, Deputy Prefect Guan lacked the confidence and authority to confront the Fan family as Xiao Yunduan would. He had no choice but to endure Old Lady Fan's tirade, avoiding any direct association with the scolding. It was during this confrontation that Deputy Prefect Guan learned of the Fan family's extensive land holdings euro, over 260,000 mu, with only 150,000 mu officially registered with the government. Over 50,000 mu remained concealed. Considering the scarcity of paddy fields in An's province, this was a substantial sum, akin to the fertile lands of Jiangnan. Deputy Prefect Guan was stunned. Old Lady Fan adamantly refused to pay taxes on these unregistered lands, citing the family's historical contributions to the government. She implored Lord Xiao to show mercy, warning that further pressure from him would only lead to mutual destruction. Chapter 1813. Bold. The two old masters of the Fan family skillfully persuaded their mother while subtly hinting to Deputy Prefect Guan about the benefits they sought. Simultaneously, they exerted both coaxing and force to sway his decision. Deputy Prefect Guan found himself irresistibly drawn to the promised benefits from the Fan family, amounting to 200 taels of silver annually. Considering his salary fell short of this amount to him, this represented a significant sum, especially in his current financial predicament. Compounded by his failed instigation of the bailiffs, resulting in substantial financial losses, he was in dire need of funds. Moreover, the Fan family's proposition held weight. As deputy prefect, his actions could easily go unnoticed by Xiao Yunduan. And even if they were discovered, Xiao Yunduan lacked the power to penalize him. Gritting his teeth, Deputy Prefect Guan reluctantly acquiesced. That day, negotiations between Deputy Prefect Guan and the Fan family concluded in a unanimous agreement. The family dispatched a butler, while Guan arranged for an investigation of the fertile lands. It was eventually discovered that the Fan family had neglected to register 10,000 mu of fertile fields with the government. Deputy Prefect Guan promptly reported the findings to Xiao Yunduan and rectified the oversight. Upon review, Xiao Yunduan nodded approvingly and instructed Deputy Prefect Guan to continue his duties. With the Fan clan serving as an example, subsequent tasks became more manageable. The Fan clan's resolute stance had nearly caused them embarrassment. None could match their determination. Though the Mei family and the Hua family might have posed comparably, their lack of interest and contention was apparent from the outset. Deputy Prefect Guan basked in his self-satisfaction, boasting profusely in the provincial office and metaphorically treading upon Jia Hemming. What use was Jia Hemming? He sneered. Incompetence, he concluded, was synonymous with trouble. Not only did they fail to resolve matters, but they also stirred up chaos, causing suffering not only for themselves but also for those around Thema. Meanwhile, Jia Hemming, still recovering, seethed with anger. Yet Deputy Prefect Guan's satisfaction only swelled further. The Fan family, though outwardly accepting of the outcome, harbored deep dissatisfaction. Formerly paying nominal taxes, they now faced a staggering sum, forced to declare 160,000 mu, a substantial burden. This was a financial blow. Were it not for Lord Xiao's unwavering stance, they would not have capitulated so readily. Now, having concealed tens of thousands of mu, they salvaged what little dignity remained. The Fan clan, however, perceived no wrongdoing. Xiao had taken a sizable chunk from them, could they not resist? Even if he were aware, turning a blind eye was expected. This realization didn't escape others' notice. Observing the Fan clan's ability to conceal such vast holdings, many were tempted to follow suit. After all, who would complain of excess wealth? Hoarding seemed the prudent choice, a long-term strategy buoyed by this scheme. Deputy Prefect Guan grew bolder. Why should he pass up such a lucrative opportunity? He congratulated himself on a job well done. The resolution coincided with the approaching August 15th festival, with the autumn harvest following shortly after. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan found themselves amidst a bustling gathering, far from the solitude of previous years. Ainan's appearance seemed to evolve daily. His once small eyebrows now flourished, framing his fair and tender visage. Adorable hardly captured his essence, particularly his captivating eyes, reminiscent of lustrous black grapes, shimmering with an enchanting watery allure capable of softening any heart. Though not yet a month old, he couldn't yet partake in moon-gazing, but he delighted in meeting the various guests. Among them were Zheng Sang, Ms. Song, Ms. Miao, and Xiao Qiao, all converging upon the state office for the festivities. With the addition of Mian, Ai, Sun Bai, Sun Xian, Songshi, Li Xia, Li Qiu, and Kai Yun, the atmosphere surpassed even that of the New Year celebrations. Chapter 1814, Mid-Autumn. Yuezheng Xiao dispatched a messenger to deliver an array of gifts. Fresh and rare fruits, delectable mooncakes, and assorted sweets adorned every corner, appearing effortlessly placed yet exuding an air of casual elegance. The children, delighted by the treats, bubbled with joy. Acknowledging the diligence of everyone in the office, Xiao Yunduan distributed 2 taels of silver as holiday bonuses along with 2 boxes of premium mooncakes from the esteemed Guanshuan garden in the city, a gesture extended even to the bailiffs. This gesture sparked a wave of jubilation and gratitude among the staff. Phrases such as, "Lord Xiao's wisdom knows no bounds," and "his kindness knows no limit," echoed, accompanied by expressions of unwavering loyalty. The outpouring of appreciation was boundless, a testament to the unprecedented treatment bestowed upon them. The mooncakes, crafted by the city's finest, Guanshuan garden, were not mere trifles. Each box contained 6 sumptuous pieces, priced at a considerable 100 copper coins per box. Furthermore, the inclusion of 2 taels of silver was significant. Even the most ordinary bailiffs and servants possessed such wealth. Considering their modest monthly earnings €1, 2 taels for the bailiffs and 1 tael for the servants €1, the bonus was indeed substantial. That evening, the east courtyard of the state government office transformed into a scene of festivity, with 5 large round tables accommodating all. The culinary feast, masterfully orchestrated by Ms. Song, Li Xia, and others under Xiao Xian's guidance, featured an impressive spread. From steamed mandarin fish to dompa meat, potato chicken to braised ribs, and a plethora of other delectable dishes, the menu was a testament to their culinary prowess. Xiao Xian even saw fit to procure some fine wine for the occasion. Amidst the convivial atmosphere, Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, once considered as intermediate figures, forged a bond as they engaged in lively conversation and shared laughter. As the moon hung high overhead, a mutual understanding prevailed among the attendees. Aware that Madame was still in confinement, they bid their farewells respectfully before relocating to continue their merriment. Ainan had been thoroughly entertained throughout the day, leaving him pleasantly fatigued and ready for a restful night's sleep. Meanwhile, Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian sat together by the window, gazing up at the radiant full moon above. Though Xiao Xian's appearance remained unchanged, her pale countenance gradually flushed with color. Her eyes sparkled with vitality, yet despite her energy, Xiao Yunduan remained steadfast in keeping her confined indoors during her recovery period. Though Xiao Xian knew she had fully recuperated and had no need for a month-long confinement, tradition held sway, with everyone from Xiao Yunduan to Ms. Song, Li Xia, and Li Qiu insisting on adherence to custom. Thus, Xiao Xian found herself resigned to her room. As the night progressed into the midpoint of autumn, with more than half of her confinement period behind her, Xiao Yunduan considered himself fortunate to share this tranquil moment with his wife, peering at the moon's luminous glow through the window. The moonlight cast a gentle glow, illuminating the courtyard below. Flowers, branches, and leaves danced in its ethereal radiance, casting intricate patterns of light and shadow upon the ground. The scene evoked a sense of whimsical beauty, reminiscent of coral formations, adding an enchanting aura to the surroundings. The air itself seemed to shimmer with clarity, akin to sunlight filtering through crystal-clear waters. This mid-autumn celebration is particularly lively, isn't it? It's been a while since we've experienced such vibrancy during the intermediate autumn. I imagine the excitement will only escalate come the new year, remarked Xiao Xian, nestled contentedly in Xiao Yunduan's embrace. Indeed, agreed Xiao Yunduan, his gaze tenderly fixed upon his cherished wife. And as time goes on, the festivities will only grow grander. Next year, as Ainan continues to grow, perhaps we can invite our parents to join in the celebrations. Chapter 1815. Haven't tried it yet. Xiao Xian couldn't help but chuckle at the thought. Ainan would only be a year old next year, hardly the time for him to cause a stir. After all, he hadn't even reached toddlerhood yet. But imagining the little one's future antics filled Xiao Xian with excitement once more. Her eyes gleamed with anticipation, her smile growing even more radiant and warm. Xiao Yunduan, his gaze deep with affection, gently caressed her waist with one hand. Leaning in, he planted a tender kiss on her cheek, his voice a soft murmur against her ear. You seem to have filled out a bit. Xiao Xian's senses sharpened instantly. Tilting her chin up, she widened her eyes in mock offense. Are you saying I'm getting fat? Postpartum, every woman harbored concerns about regaining their pre-pregnancy figure. Such sensitivities couldn't be brushed off casually, especially by her husband. In truth, Xiao Xian had shed much of her pregnancy weight. Her affinity with the wood element boded well for her physical recovery, assuring her of returning to peak condition in due time. Upon realizing this, she relaxed. After all, who wouldn't be conscious of their appearance? Her concerns were for herself alone. Of course not. Xiao Yunduan reassured her, enfolding her in his embrace with a soft chuckle. You're perfect just the way you are. You were beautiful before, and you're beautiful now. Xiao Xian couldn't contain her laughter. Gazing up at him, she teased, so, which is Ida better before or now? Xiao Yunduan's smile deepened, a hint of mischief dancing in his eyes as he replied suggestively, I know what was good before, but I've yet to experience the pleasures of now. A rosy blush spread across Xiao Xian's cheeks, her eyes alight with playful embarrassment. She attempted to maintain her composure as she inquired, experience what? Regret immediately washed over her. Why did she ask? She wished she could retract the question the moment it left her lips. True to form, Xiao Yunduan's chuckle grew more intimate as he drew her closer, whispering something in her ear that caused her blush to deepen. Finally, he kissed her with such fervor that she melted into his embrace, the boundaries of her confinement momentarily forgotten. Following the mid-autumn festivities, Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan turned their attention to planning their son's one-month-old banquet. Having received congratulations from most well-wishers already, they focused on finalizing the guest list and menu. Xiao Xian expressed a desire to highlight potatoes, intending to promote their culinary versatility. After deliberation, they settled on two potato-centric dishes, stir-fried shredded potatoes with a tangy, slightly spicy flavor, and fried potato pancakes. These would be served alongside steamed buns and fried dumplings, providing a hearty main course. Xiao Yunduan readily agreed, praising the potential of potatoes. Indeed, it's an excellent choice. I've observed the potato crops, both here and in the capital, and they're thriving. With high yields and adaptability to various climates, promoting them could be a boon, especially for regions facing agricultural challenges. Even in times of plenty, they offer sustenance to impoverished families with limited land. Grinning fondly at his wife, he continued, any merit accrued in Anne's province will undoubtedly be attributed to you, my dear. Marrying you has been the greatest blessing of my life. Chapter 1816. Gain. Xiao Xian's heart swelled with warmth, though she refrained from voicing it aloud. Oh, you're quite the charmer, she teased. Xiao Yunduan chuckled, planting a tender kiss on her lips. His wife's playful pretense only endeared her to him further, igniting an urge to draw her closer. With the decision made to feature potatoes at the banquet, Xiao Xian promptly issued orders for their harvest. Months of development, cultivation, and planting had transformed the landscape. The once rough terrain now boasted a meticulously maintained road, wide enough for 2 carriages to pass comfortably. Its surface, compacted and reinforced with a layer of crushed stones, remained resilient against rain-induced erosion. Across the sprawling expanse, medicinal herbs and potatoes thrived. Though some herbs required years to mature, their lush growth signaled Xiao Yunduan's enduring commitment to An's province, hinting at multiple terms of governance. Anticipating the next planting season, Xiao Xian outlined plans to introduce additional crops like Gastrodia alata, Baikal skullcap, and false starworts in the forested slopes. As the harvest season approached for the 2,000 mu of potatoes, news of the novel crop spread swiftly, fueled by the efforts of Songsher, Lu Fu, Mianmian, and others. Despite the populace's anticipation, many had yet to taste the tubers, prompting a surge of curiosity and speculation. Upon the conclusion of Ainan's 1-month-old banquet, Xiao Xian intended to gradually introduce the potatoes to the market, offering them in limited quantities for culinary use, sustenance, and seed propagation. Additionally, she planned to provide free guidance on planting and cultivation techniques, ensuring widespread adoption and prosperity. As for 2,000 mu, after being activated by her superpower, the yield was at least 4,000 caddies. It was enough to supply them all together. After all, not everyone was so accepting. Not everyone would buy it. It was still early for 50,000 mu in the forest. This winter, they would hire more people during the farming time. It would be best if they could all cultivate the land and plant pepper, star anise, and pepper next year. The 1,000 mu of Sichuan peppers this year were also growing very well. The seeds planted were originally 2 years old, and they could hang fruits next year. Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian's actions were very eye-catching. They dug potatoes with great fanfare and hired so many people, which attracted a lot of attention. Amidst the potato harvesting operation, crowds gathered, some to witness the spectacle, others with less noble intentions, seeking to poach from the bountiful fields. Witnessing the remarkably high production rate, many onlookers were astounded, prompting a barrage of skeptical inquiries. Would the potatoes taste palatable? Could they truly satisfy hunger? Were they versatile enough to serve as both a staple and a vegetable? Seizing the opportunity, Songsher and his cohorts reiterated the merits of the crop, assuaging doubts and reaffirming its potential. They announced plans to commence sales after the young master's 1-month-old banquet, inviting all interested parties to purchase. However, the Fan family and Mrs. Guan sneered at these efforts, dismissing them as mere profit-seeking schemes. Ignorant of the crop's characteristics and benefits, they failed to recognize its value beyond monetary gain. Chapter 1817, 1-month-old banquet. Some individuals found themselves genuinely intrigued by Madame Xiao's confident assertions, reasoning that she wouldn't risk implicating Lord Xiao unless she spoke the truth. With plans to purchase the potatoes when they became available, they saw little harm in giving them a try or even cultivating some themselves. On the day of Ainan's 1-month-old banquet, the state government office buzzed with activity. Dozens of tables adorned the backyard, where male guests congregated, while female guests occupied seats in the east courtyard. Xiao Xian summoned a cadre of trusted individuals: Sayuro, Ms. Song, Ms. Miao, Qiao Qiao, Songsher, Qing Yan, Mianmian, Lixia, Liqiu, Kaiyue, and Kaiyuna Euro, to assist with the day's preparations. Each was assigned specific tasks, ensuring seamless coordination throughout the festivities. While the garden affairs could be managed with the help of Sun Bai, Sun Qian, and other bailiffs, the east courtyard demanded unwavering attention to prevent any mishaps during the celebration. It was imperative to maintain the utmost decorum, especially when attending to the guests. As the guests arrived for the 1-month-old celebration, all eyes naturally turned to the baby. Nanny Kaiming and her assistants, Kaiyun and Kaiyue, remained on high alert, steadfast in their duty to safeguard Ainan's well-being. Throughout the day, Lixia and her counterparts remained vigilant, discreetly attending to the needs of both guests and maidservants. However, notable absentees included the Fan clan, who harbored a desire to attend but ultimately refrained. Old Lady Fan's previous misjudgment, influenced by Fan Rian's slander, had strained relations. Until formally invited by Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, they remained on the sidelines, unsure of their welcome. Despite being one of the 3 prominent families in An's province, the Fan clan anticipated deference from the prefect lord, given their stature. Moreover, their recent cooperation in the investigation of land holdings had already demonstrated their willingness to cooperate, providing the prefect lord with sufficient face. However, to their surprise, no representatives from the Shao family arrived. As time ticked on, it became increasingly apparent that no invitation would be forthcoming. Old Lady Fan's initial disappointment swiftly turned to indignation. This is outrageous. Outrageous. I won't forget this. Fueling her fire, Fan Rian speculated, I suppose it's because we showed leniency this time, making the prefect lord think we're easy prey. They're taking advantage of our generosity. But mark my words, when the prefect lord departs An's province, their true colors will show. Frustrated, Old Lady Fan found herself yearning for the mountain bandits of yesteryear, once feared but now wished for the humble Lord Shao. The Fan family's elders hesitated to approach Old Lady Fan, foreseeing the inevitable ridicule that would follow their absence. While other families eagerly attended the state office banquet, the absence of the Fan clan was met with little surprise or disappointment. Reflecting on the situation, the first old master and madam lamented, Mother's temperament remains unchanged, but the current prefect lord is not like his predecessors. How times have changed. The first Madam Fan remained silent, well aware of past tensions between their families, particularly involving the prefect's daughter, who had suffered indignities at the hands of Bararui. Chapter 1818, Potatoes. Such incidents were not isolated occurrences for the Fan clan. Accustomed to their privileged status, Old Lady Fan and her daughter had long held themselves above others. Historically, the prefect lords lacked the confidence and authority to challenge the entrenched power of long-standing families like theirs, relying on their support for various matters. However, the current prefect lord was a different breed. Unfazed by the Fan clan's haughty demeanor, he represented a new era, one where their arrogance was met with resistance. Inwardly, First Madam Fan couldn't help but feel that her mother's arrogance had invited their current misfortune. Perhaps it's fitting, she mused to herself, for her to face consequences for her perpetual arrogance. Although she agreed with her husband's assessment, First Madam Fan maintained a facade of gentility. Mother is of noble birth, she offered diplomatically. I believe Lord Shao and Madam Shao have shown undue disrespect. Regardless, our mother is an elder and deserves reverence. Observing his wife's tactful response, the first old master smiled knowingly, choosing not to press the matter further. He understood the delicate balance required in navigating their family dynamics, especially concerning Old Lady Fan's sensibilities. Perhaps I should speak with Mother and attempt to reason with her, he suggested tentatively, acknowledging the need for diplomacy in managing familial conflicts. First Madam Fan couldn't help but sneer inwardly at her husband's suggestion. If you think you can persuade her, be prepared for a scolding in return. I'm not sure. Perhaps we should consult with my sister-in-law first, she suggested, masking her contempt with a veneer of diplomacy. The first old master's heart sank at the prospect. Frowning, he sighed inwardly, realizing that he would need to tread carefully. Perhaps it was best to keep certain matters hidden from his mother and sister going forward. He found himself fervently wishing for the prefect lord's transfer, hoping to alleviate the tensions within his family. Meanwhile, in the state office's backyard, guests were treated to a traditional banquet spread. While the dishes were sumptuous, many of the women had previously sampled Xiao Xian's delectable cooking and were eager for something new. Their anticipation peaked when stir-fried shredded potatoes were surveyed, a novel dish prepared from Madame Xiao's potatoes. The golden strands, lightly sautéed with green peppers, exuded an enticing aroma, piquing everyone's interest. As they sampled the dish, they were delighted by its crispy texture and tangy, spicy flavor, a refreshing departure from the usual fare. The arrival of potato pancakes further impressed the guests, who praised the unique fragrance and flavor. It's delicious. Who knew potatoes could taste this good? Lord and Madam Shao have truly brought something special to An's province. They're so considerate. The consensus was clear, the introduction of potatoes had elevated the culinary experience and won the admiration of all present. Chapter 1819, It looks very effective, true. €30% of the praises were mere compliments, but a staggering 70% emanated from genuine appreciation. The flavor was commendable, versatile enough for cooking various dishes, even pancakes. The maidservant's casual mentions of different cooking techniques added an air of reliability and allure to the dishes. Many attendees anticipated the opening of Madame Xiao's stall for purchase. They planned to procure some and experiment with additional recipes in their kitchens. Despite their affluence, the attendees pondered the significance of such provisions, acknowledging the potential boon they could provide during times of scarcity or calamity. Qiao Xian regarded the matter with earnestness, her satisfaction evident as Li Xia and others relayed the feedback to her with smiles. Qiao Xian's genuine happiness was palpable. Whether it was due to the dish's deliciousness or her personal preference, authenticity shone through. She understood that insincere praise would not enhance the dish's appeal. Purposefully, Qiao Xian ensured the other dishes remained subdued, allowing the spotlight to remain on the potatoes. Her strategy proved effective. As the banquet concluded, guests departed gradually. Some lingered, indulging in drinks until the moon adorned the night sky before bidding their farewells. Xiao Yunduan remained silent until he dispatched someone to inquire. Qiao Xian had already drifted into sleep, as had Anan, who had spent the day in joyful activity. After ensuring his son was settled, Xiao Yunduan entered the bedroom. The rustle of his clothes roused Xiao Xian from her half-slumber. Her drowsy gaze brightened at the sight of him, accompanied by a gentle smile. Her words came out in a soft murmur, "You're back. Are they gone too?" Xiao Yunduan nodded, a soft chuckle escaping his lips as he settled beside her, enfolding her in his embrace. "Why are you awake? Aren't you tired?" Qiao Xian returned the smile. "Of course, I am tired. I've been on edge all day because of your son. I've been so tense, not daring to relax for a second, fearing something might happen. Thankfully, the Fan family wasn't present today. I've silently thanked them countless times." Xiao Yunduan chuckled, planting kisses on her forehead and cheeks. "Seems like the Fan family isn't so bad after all. You're quite sensible. Right?" she responded with a soft laugh. Their smiles met in silent understanding. Xiao Yunduan's gaze softened as he spoke gently, "My son has exhausted you today. As his father, I must make it up to you." Qiao Xian's eyes twinkled mischievously. "And how do you plan to do that?" His smile deepened. "Remember this, and when the time is right, we'll repay you with interest." A warmth spread in Xiao Xian's heart, and she playfully scolded him, "Let's just go to sleep." After all, there was nothing more he could do. Why make things difficult for himself? Chapter 18:20. Promoting potatoes. Xiao Yunduan chuckled and drew her into his embrace, gently patting her shoulders. "Yes, sleep." Qiao Xian's lips curled into a contented smile. The familiar comfort of his chest provided a sense of security, and soon she drifted back into slumber. Taking advantage of the momentum, the day following Anan's 1-month-old banquet, the potatoes were launched onto the market. With the advantage of their own territory, there was no need for cumbersome procedures or stall arrangements. Under Song's guidance, potato sales points were strategically positioned in bustling areas across the city center. 2 days into the sale, a simple cooking setup was added beside each point. Potatoes were prepared on-site, offering passers-by free samples cooked in various styles. The display showcased the versatility of potatoes in culinary creations. Every 2 hours, fresh batches of complementary dishes were prepared: potato pancakes, spicy and sour shredded potatoes, stir-fried potato cubes, potato slices, steamed potatoes, and more, including a daily serving of deep-fried potatoes. Sold at a modest price of 4 copper coins per caddy, the potatoes were limited to 10 caddies per purchase, with a maximum of 20 caddies allowed for wealthy families or restaurants. Those desiring more had to join the queue once again. Furthermore, it was made clear that the supply was limited, and once sold out, customers would have to wait until the next year. Qiao Xian had anticipated skepticism from the commoners and expected a challenging promotional effort, thus necessitating a gradual acceptance strategy. To her surprise, the process unfolded remarkably smoothly. Generous purchases came from the affluent families who had sampled the potatoes at Ainan's banquet, while well-informed restaurants swiftly followed suit. Observing this trend, other establishments quickly jumped on the bandwagon. The commoners held Lord Xiao in high esteem for his integrity, and the Xiao family's products, being reasonably priced, found favor among them. As queues lengthened, others instinctively joined in without hesitation, recognizing the popularity and value of the product. From 2,000 mu of land, approximately 4,500 caddies of potatoes were harvested, totaling around 9 million caddies. Xiao Xian retained seeds for future cultivation on the same land and set aside a portion as gifts, mainly in gratitude for contributions from Zheng Sang and others. The remaining half was divided between An's prefecture city and 17 surrounding towns. In less than 10 days, nearly 9 million caddies of potatoes were swiftly sold out. These gestures of generosity were warmly received by scribes and bailiffs, garnering praise for Lord and Madame Xiao. Upon bringing the potatoes home, families wasted no time in preparing and relishing them. Whether stir-fried, stewed, or prepared in other ways, the taste proved exceptional. The following day, conversations buzzed within the government office as many shared their enthusiasm. Families flocked to the market early to secure their share, drawn by the delicious, practical, and affordably priced product. The buzz around potatoes quickly enveloped the entire city. Restaurants experienced a surge in potato orders, with almost every table opting to sample the versatile tuber. However, notably absent from the buyers' list was the Fan family. Fearful of old lady Fan's disapproval, no member of the Fan family dared to purchase the potatoes, as it was Madame Xiao who introduced them to the city during Lord Xiao's baby's 1-month-old banquet. Chapter 1821. The Fan family won't buy. However, curiosity stirred among the Fan household. Some servants clandestinely purchased the potatoes, which families then shared among themselves, eagerly cooking and tasting the newfound delicacy. Even first Madame Fan and second Mrs. Fan personally instructed their staff to procure and prepare some in the household kitchen. The verdict? The potatoes proved surprisingly delightful. Whether in the form of sour and spicy shredded potatoes or when incorporated into chicken and pork dishes, they offered a delightful variety of flavors. Observing the positive reception, First Madame Fan couldn't help but express her admiration to First Old Master Fan. If Madame Xiao's claims hold true, Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao have performed a great service for the people here. Such benevolence might attract heavenly blessings. Her gaze implied a caution against opposing Lord Xiao, hinting at potential repercussions. First Old Master Fan understood the subtext well, yet he lacked final authority within the Fan family's decisions. Meanwhile, Old Lady Fan caught wind of the servants' fervent discussions about potatoes. Intrigued by their enthusiasm, she summoned someone to inquire. The maidservant, flustered and tongue-tied, hesitated to respond. As Old Lady Fan pressed for answers, the maidservant eventually divulged the truth, albeit clumsily. Enraged by the revelation, Old Lady Fan demanded further investigation. Upon learning the extent of the commotion, her fury only intensified. How dare you engage in such self-serving behavior, causing such a stir? Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao must be consumed by greed. With the sale of these potatoes, they stand to make a fortune in silver taels. Drawing from her experience as a member of the Nian family, Old Lady Fan swiftly calculated the potential profits, her displeasure growing with each passing moment. The ease with which Lord Xiao seemingly amassed wealth from 2,000 mu of arid land only fueled her indignation. It appeared, in her estimation, that money was being earned far too effortlessly. Those people lack foresight. They don't even have the right to curry favor with Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao. Yet, they're all scrambling to shower Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao with gifts. Let's see how far that gets them in the future. Old Lady Fan complained and derided them. The servants dared not utter a sound, even in their sleep. Let me be clear, our family is prohibited from purchasing such items. Others may desire them, but I do not, she asserted firmly, prompting the servants to hastily agree. Yuezheng Xiao arrived bearing generous gifts for Ainan's 1-month-old banquet. Although Xie Jingrong was absent, Yuezheng Xiao had arranged for the gifts to be delivered. Staying for 3 days, Yuezheng Xiao's visit prompted Xiao Xian to task Mianmian with bringing 2 companions to assess properties in Yuzhang. With the year drawing to a close, it presented an opportune time to settle accounts with Yuezheng Xiao and collect any owed funds. Simultaneously, she planned to return to Shaoding village. Despite Yuezheng Xiao's previous correspondence, the personal touch of a servant's visit held a different significance. Mianmian excelled in managing accounts, bringing clarity and order to financial matters with ease. Xiao Xian was both surprised and pleased. She appointed 2 assistants to support Mianmian, ensuring smooth operation and expansion of her enterprises without straining manpower. While Xiao Xian initially considered sending Ai home with Mianmian, Xiao Yunduan noted Ai's prior commitments, prompting Mianmian to decline. With Yuezheng Xiao, there was no need for an escort. As rice ripened one after another, farmers began harvesting, aided by Xiao Xian's supernatural abilities which significantly increased yields and accelerated ripening dates. Chapter 1822. Xiao Xian's plan. The rice ripened 6 to 10 days earlier than usual, with harvesting commencing shortly after the Mid-Autumn Festival. By the 20th day of August, the autumn harvest was in full swing, filling the fields with activity and the jubilation of abundance. As they carried loads of golden rice home, families made extra trips compared to previous years. Though the work was heavy and tiring, their hearts brimmed with joy. Gratitude to Lord Xiao abounded in every farming family, with prayers offered to Buddha for his kindness. With a production increase of 30% to nearly 40%, worries about next year's harvest vanished. Lord Xiao was their benefactor, ensuring they would eat their fill even in lean times. In early September, the Fan family's rice fields also saw harvesting. Meanwhile, government-provided rice, already harvested and sun-dried, filled the granaries. This year's farming hiatus arrived unusually early. With Xiao Xian's approval, Songsher began hiring workers to continue exploration efforts. Of the 50,000 mu of mountains, only 5,000 to 6,000 mu had been previously opened. This year, efforts intensified to reclaim the remainder before the new year, aiming to plant everything needed. Seedlings were already under cultivation for the next year, with additional nursery resources secured for Sichuan pepper, star anise, pepper, cinnamon, and more. Madam's plans expanded beyond the existing 50,000 mu. Intent on acquiring another 100,000 to 200,000 mu, she envisioned a diverse landscape of tea plantations, medicinal herbs, bamboo forests, orchards, and poultry farms. Development plans included swamps, ponds for fish farming, and reclamation of fertile land. Only Songsher was privy to these plans, and his excitement was palpable. It presented a golden opportunity for him to showcase his skills, further solidifying his worthiness as the chief steward. Xiao Xian believed this location's proximity to Yuzhang meant its resources were more abundant, making it an ideal site for development and mitigating negative karma. With the road between Yuzhang and Yuzhang slated for repair within 2 years, transportation would vastly improve, reducing travel time from 2.5 days to a mere 2 days. Such progress was commendable. Even if they eventually returned to their hometown, managing businesses here would be effortlessly manageable. Come the end of September, Xiao Yunduan issued a notice for tax collection. Each contributor urged to exercise fiscal prudence. The commoners responded with enthusiasm, swiftly submitting their dues as the document made its rounds. Xiao Yunduan divided Jing Sang, Sun Bai, Sun Qian, and Ai into 2 teams, each tasked with transporting the grains collected from towns to An's province and depositing them into the intermediate granaries in the city, accompanied by additional manpower. With this year's harvest surpassing expectations, the existing granary proved insufficient. Xiao Yunduan dispatched 2 additional scribes to oversee the construction of a new granary. All granaries were situated in the east of the city, prompting Xiao Yunduan to reprove a piece of land in the west for separate storage, deemed safer. As construction commenced on the new granary, old lady Fan and her daughter took to mocking the endeavor. During autumn harvest, mountain bandits from the Min family tribe, Tiger Head tribe, and Liuhe fort traditionally descended to request food. Historically, the 3 prominent families led in supplying provisions, each contributing a set amount for the bandits' transport. An unspoken understanding prevailed among the families, ensuring smooth cooperation without explicit agreement. Chapter 1823, Rules changed in the past. This situation stemmed partly from the government's struggle to collect taxes effectively. Each family's tacit acknowledgement of the mountain bandits' authority served as a means to maintain regional security, indirectly benefiting both the populace and the government. Consequently, tax payments dwindled. However, this laissez-faire attitude among the families led to officials having minimal influence. The lack of accountability allowed the families to become increasingly audacious, while officials begrudgingly acquiesced, unable to assert their authority. Prefect lords sought to distance themselves from this predicament, showing little concern for the issue. Consequently, year after year, the situation grew more peculiar. When Xiao Yunduan jokingly disclosed this to Qiao Xian, she found the situation incredulous, remarking, "Truly, the world is full of wonders." With Xiao Yunduan's arrival, the status quo demanded change. Aside from sharing the matter with his wife in jest, he cautioned her against venturing out. As Zheng Sang and their cohorts began escorting public grain, the three families, along with other influential households in An's province, approached Deputy Prefect Guan to address the issue. Though everyone was well aware of the situation, they sought to navigate through bureaucratic red tape. Deputy Prefect Guan, keen to stir trouble for Xiao Yunduan, approached him with candor. My lord, please don't be vexed. This is the state of affairs in An's province. We're constrained by circumstances. If there were alternative solutions, none would resort to such measures. However, this matter cannot be openly discussed. Xiao Yunduan, composed, responded, "The past is irrelevant to me. Henceforth, heed my directives. Trust that I have devised a plan." "You are astute," Deputy Prefect Guan replied, his smile unyielding. He continued with flattery, "I'm curious about your plan. Why not share it with me? After all, I've been entrenched here for many years. I don't mean to boast, but I possess a deeper understanding of the situation than you." Xiao Yunduan smirked inwardly. Understanding the situation was futile. The issue in An's province was hardly clandestine. Despite his thorough investigation, he had gleaned all necessary insights over time. He doubted Deputy Prefect Guan's superiority in knowledge. Moreover, even if he lacked comprehension, it was inconsequential. Action spoke louder than comprehension. "I have devised a strategy," Xiao Yunduan reiterated. "I will oversee this matter personally. Deputy Prefect Guan, rest assured. Taxes from across the realm will soon fill the coffers, and you will oversee An's prefecture city and its surrounding towns. Ensure timely delivery of all collected rice to the warehouse. But, my lord, if the banditry issue persists, the suburbs' 3 towns will remain unaffected. Are those cowards bold enough to assail the city? I think not." Xiao Yunduan spoke truthfully. Bandits targeted passing supply caravans, not urban settlements or their environs. Their resources were finite, limiting their capacity to strike beyond. Should the authorities retaliate, the bandits would abandon their plunder and flee. Chapter 1824, Arrogant Lord Xiao. They were not stupid enough to do something that would obviously not benefit them. However, these words made him feel a little uncomfortable. Coupled with Xiao Yunduan's arrogant tone, it made him feel even more displeased and disgusted. For some reason, Deputy Prefect Guan held back his anger. "Yes, since you are confident, I won't say anything else. I believe that Lord has his own. Make haste with the tax collection, particularly from the Fan family." "Clear?" "Understood, my lord." Deputy Prefect Guan sneered inwardly. He doubted Xiao Yunduan's grasp of the situation. Did he truly believe he had subdued the mountain bandits with his surprise attack on the Tiger Head tribe? Underestimating the adversary had led to his initial victory. If he insisted on being obstinate, so be it. He would learn the gravity of the situation when adversity struck. Then, he would inevitably come. Pleadinga. Zheng Sang, Sun Bai, and their cohorts were well prepared. The delivery of the initial batches of provisions proceeded seamlessly. Observing this, Xiao Yunduan appeared smug and arrogant. He publicly posted notices, admonishing the Min family tribe, Liuha Fort, and Tiger Head tribe bandits to surrender promptly. He granted them a 1-month ultimatum. Should they surpass the deadline, he warned of dire consequences. He vowed to purge their mountain strongholds and restore peace to An's province in service to the imperial court. The populace was left dumbfounded. Most regarded Lord Xiao with skepticism. They questioned, has Lord Xiao lost his senses? Was it possible that Lord Xiao's self-satisfaction had driven him to madness? Did he truly believe that his control over these obedient commoners of Great Qin equated to the audacity to provoke bandits who reveled in bloodshed and treated lives as mere blades of grass? Those who were so brash often met grim fates. Aside from mocking and pitying Lord Xiao's naivety, everyone felt as though they were caught in a surreal reverie. It was unprecedented. None of the previous prefect lords had dared to openly provoke the bandits. They were resigned to their grievances, unable to even stand tall. It seemed like a fantasy to all witnessing this turn of events. Old Lady Fan and Fan Rian nearly burst into laughter. Fan Rian sneered, "This is rich. Lord Xiao might not last long in An's province." Old Lady Fan nodded in agreement. Perhaps he'd be scared witless by the mountain kings, or worse, something dreadful might befall him. Naturally, he wouldn't linger. Fan Rian seethed, "I won't let those hove use their power to shame our family off the hook. When the time comes, let's see whose influence they'll cling to, especially that scribe Jiao." Back then, she hadn't realized just how vexing this individual could be. Old Lady Fan sneered, her tone dripping with disdain. Such a person doesn't leave himself any room to maneuver. There's no need to dignify him with attention. Just wait and watch. Fan Rian chuckled in agreement. Mother is absolutely right. Confident that Xiao Yunduan's departure was imminent, Old Lady Fan began strategizing anew. Thus, when Deputy Prefect Guan arrived to press the Fan family for taxes, Old Lady Fan resorted to her usual excuses. Traditionally, the Fan family settled their dues in cash, a practice that streamlined affairs in the province, benefiting all parties. This year's tax bill amounted to 7,000 taels of silver. Lord Xiao graciously waived the sum, considering it negligible. Chapter 1825. Bargaining. The Fan family brushed off such a trivial sum with indifference. Even its removal wouldn't assuage their ire or sense of injustice. In the past, their tax obligation amounted to a mere 400 taels of silver. Now, it had ballooned more than tenfold. Old Lady Fan sought to string Deputy Prefect Guan along until the irksome Lord Xiao vacated An's province. Naturally, she intended for the tax issue to remain unresolved. But with Lord Xiao provoking the mountain bandits, how long would he remain? Deputy Prefect Guan, Old Lady Fan's reasoning struck a chord with Deputy Prefect Guan. He was so bemused by the situation that he almost burst out laughing. If Deputy Prefect Guan sought to stall, it ultimately depended on Xiao Yunduan's tolerance. Xiao Yunduan was adamant, pressing Deputy Prefect Guan for a resolution. He demanded a response by the next day. Failing that, he wouldn't hesitate to take matters into his own hands, personally visiting the Fan family in the postnatal realm. Numerous eyes were fixed on the Fan family. If they shirked their tax duty, how could others be expected to comply? Accusations of bullying the weak and kowtowing to the strong would tarnish his reputation as prefect lord. The dignity he painstakingly cultivated would crumble in an instant. To him, this was an unacceptable outcome. Deputy Prefect was taken aback. He understood Xiao Yunduan's steadfastness. Allowing Xiao Yunduan to approach the Fan family was out of the question. A pang of guilt struck him. What if the Fan family was implicated for concealing 40,000 mu of fertile land? With a heavy heart, Deputy Prefect Guan reluctantly acquiesced. The following day, he paid another visit to the Fan family. Old Lady Fan was naturally reluctant. She couldn't help but scorn Deputy Prefect Guan. It was no wonder he remained stuck in the role of Deputy Prefect despite the constant turnover of An's prefecture's leadership. He was utterly ineffectual. Lord Xiao effortlessly manipulated him with mere words. Old Lady Fan insisted that Deputy Prefect Guan see through the delay to its conclusion. Initially disinclined to entertain him, she begrudgingly agreed to remit 500 taels first, with the remainder to follow gradually. Money was tight for the Fan family, making it impossible to gather the sum immediately. Deputy Prefect Guan was incensed. As the esteemed deputy prefect, he had debased himself to this extent, only to receive a paltry 500 taels from the old woman. In the past, such an amount would have sufficed. But now, Lord Xiao demanded 7,000 taels of silver. How could he justify a mere 500? Was Lord Xiao so easily deceived? Who would believe the Fan family's claim of financial hardship? If they were truly cash-strapped, would they not be embarrassed to offer a mere 7,000 taels? To the average person, such an amount would indeed be substantial, but this was the Fan family we're talking about. Deputy Prefect Guan gritted his teeth, suppressing his frustration. He soldiered on, enduring the grind. Old Lady Fan's irritation towards him was palpable. She snapped that she would offer no more than an additional 200 taels a euro, no more. After all, he held a significant position as regional prefect. Was it beyond his capabilities to execute a simple delay? Had his years as deputy prefect amounted to nothing? Deputy Prefect Guan felt suffocated. He had bared his soul, lowered himself to a humiliating extent, all for the sake of securing a meager 200 taels to dismiss the beggar. Aware of old Lady Fan's stubbornness, he knew she wouldn't yield any further. Defeated, he returned to the government office with a total of 700 taels in hand. He had no choice but to persist with the delay. Chapter 1826. Stunned Deputy Prefect Guan had intended to prolong the situation until day's end, planning to address it the following day. However, upon his arrival at the government office, Qing Yan greeted him with a smile and promptly escorted him to Xiao Yunduan. Before Deputy Prefect Guan could employ his delaying tactics in front of Xiao Yunduan, the latter demanded the return of the funds, rendering any further discussion moot as he swiftly departed for the east courtyard. Anxious to explain himself, Deputy Prefect Guan attempted to enter, but Ah Ye's stern expression halted him in his tracks. Frustrated and indignant, he retreated home, confident that Xiao Yunduan wouldn't dare take action against the Fan family. Little did Deputy Prefect Guan anticipate that Xiao Yunduan would not only summon the two elders of the Fan family to court the next day but also inquire about their concealment of 40,000 mu of fertile land during a previous investigation. Xiao Yunduan had already dispatched investigators to uncover this deception, waiting for the opportune moment to wield it against Thema Euro, a moment that had now arrived. With irrefutable evidence at hand, Xiao Yunduan was poised to expose their deceit. After all, concealing 40,000 mu of fertile land was no small feat and would not go unnoticed. The two elders of the Fan family were left dumbfounded. When Deputy Prefect Guan was presented with the situation, he found himself in a dire predicament. Xiao Yunduan sneered. Deputy Prefect Guan, do you have anything to say for yourself? To ascertain his accountability, signatures confirming the Fan family's land measurements were required. Deputy Prefect Guan's signature adorned these documents. He had intended to deceive the Fan family, but now, others implicated in similar dealings would undoubtedly come under scrutiny. The evidence was damning. Lord Xiao, it was my oversight. Deputy Prefect Guan stammered, momentarily panicked before mustering the courage to admit his error. I was negligent and failed to conduct a thorough investigation. Please forgive me, Lord. He couldn't confess to collusion with the Fan family. He couldn't. Is that so? Xiao Yunduan presented the rechecked data alongside Deputy Prefect Guan's signed documents. His tone turned icy. Then you are gravely mistaken. Not only the Fan family, but the Lu family, the Feng family, the Liang family, and the Zhao family are all implicated. Deputy Prefect Guan, it appears you are inept at managing affairs. I am perplexed. How did you attain the position of Deputy Prefect? Deputy Prefect Guan felt a chill creep into his heart. Shock and anger contorted his expression as he gazed at Xiao Yunduan. He had fallen into Xiao Yunduan's trap. Initially anxious during the investigation, he had awaited Xiao Yunduan's scrutiny, expecting confrontation. Yet Xiao Yunduan had merely glanced over the results without protest, leading Deputy Prefect Guan to breathe a sigh of relief. He had presumed he passed the test and grew increasingly emboldened. He lent assistance to anyone who sought his aid. He assumed Lord Xiao would not have the leisure to return for further investigation. As long as no questions were asked, he believed he would safely navigate the ordeal. However, little did he realize, it was all a meticulously laid trap. An oversight once or twice, or even thrice, might be attributed to carelessness. But to repeat the same mistake with over 10 families? Such negligence couldn't simply be brushed aside. Even if negligence were to be the explanation, it was far from a trivial matter. Deputy Prefect Guan broke out in a cold sweat, rendered speechless by the gravity of his predicament. Your conduct does not befit your position, it's time to relinquish it, declared Xiao Yunduan. My lord. And what of it? Do you have any further defense? Chapter 1827, unable to withstand it at this juncture, Deputy Prefect Guan threw in the towel, his anger palpable as he sneered, this must be a trap concocted by you, isn't it? You've always harbored disdain for me, and you're intent on preventing me from holding the position of Deputy Prefect. Xiao Yunduan's sneer mirrored Deputy Prefect Guan's. Do you truly believe you're fit for the role of Deputy Prefect? Must I recount every misstep you've taken since I assumed leadership? The Deputy Prefect is meant to be the Prefect's right hand, sharing in the burdens. How much have you truly shared with me? There had been no sharing of burdens, only troubles and obstacles. Deputy Prefect Guan vehemently denied it. Lord, you're twisting the truth. Such absurdity. Humph. Deputy Prefect Guan, must I strip you of all dignity? Your transgressions haven't faded from memory. If I were to conduct a thorough investigation, do you truly believe your misdeeds wouldn't come to light? Deputy Prefect Guan's mind raced, his strength nearly failing him. But he couldn't yield. Xiao Yunduan's gaze turned cold, devoid of its usual gentleness. Surrender the Deputy Prefect's insignia and pay a fine of 500 taels of silver. You'll be demoted to the rank of scribe henceforth. Consider it a lenient punishment for your years of service to An's province. Otherwise, you'll face consequences far more severe than those warranted by your actions. Are we clear? If you're not convinced, you're free to decline the role of scribe. Deputy Prefect Guan's world seemed to darken. Meeting Xiao Yunduan's steely gaze, he realized he stood no chance against him. Had the Prefect Lord anticipated this very moment? He had underestimated him, blaming him for underestimating his adversary. Trapped once or twice before, he had yet to recover. Now, ensnared in Xiao Yunduan's web without warning, he found himself in this dire situation. But it wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The bandits of the Min family tribe, Tiger Head tribe, and Liuhe Fort would surely make their move. Did Xiao Yunduan believe he could handle these bandits as easily as the law-abiding citizens of An's province? He would relish watching Xiao Yunduan suffer a crushing defeat and then, head rise again. Thus, he refused to leave the state office. A scribe fine, a scribe it was. Thank you for your leniency, Lord. I erred first. Am grateful for the opportunity to remain a Deputy Prefect Guan swallowed his pride, yielding to Xiao Yunduan. Xiao Yunduan's expression remained impassive. He uttered no further words, neither reprimanding nor chastising Deputy Prefect Guan. Instead, he simply stated, it's good that you recognize your fault. You may go. Effective immediately, Jia Hemming will assume the role of Deputy Prefect. Ensure a smooth transition. Furthermore, you must vacate the residence within 3 days. With that, Deputy Prefect Guan bowed and exited, his heart heavy with the weight of his defeat. Deputy Prefect Guan's blood rushed to his head. He was embarrassed, hateful, and angry. He swallowed his anger and replied, yes. Lowering his head, he turned around and left. Such blatant abuse of power was simply intolerable. Just bide his time. When those bandits from the Min family tribe and Tiger Head tribe inevitably came knocking, Xiao Yunduan would learn what it meant to be brought low. He swore to exact revenge for today's humiliation in the days to come. After seeing off Deputy Prefect Guan, Xiao Yunduan's attention turned to the 2 elders of the Fan family. Slowly, he fixed his gaze upon them. The 2 old masters of the Fan family felt as though needles were pricking their backs, their bodies stiff with apprehension. They stood there, overwhelmed by a sense of dread and confusion. How could they not be afraid? This Lord Xiao was ruthless and unyielding. He had turned against Deputy Prefect Guan without hesitation, stripping him of his position. Could they, and the Fan family, expect any mercy? Chapter 1828. Unable to leave the state office, the first old master Fan was perspiring profusely under Xiao Yunduan's penetrating gaze, his heart pounding with anxiety. I confess. I'll pay the tax immediately, and for the 40,000 mu of fertile land I overlooked, I'll settle the tax for that too. Please forgive me, Lord, he blurted out. The second old master Fan chimed in hastily, yes, Lord Xiao, spare me. I won't dare to repeat this mistake. Though they anticipated their mother's inevitable objections and the ensuing chaos, they couldn't afford to be concerned about it now. But would Lord Xiao be appeased without a hefty sum of money? Without it, they wouldn't leave the state office unscathed. What recourse did they have? Despair gnawed at them. Ha! To their surprise, Lord Xiao's demeanor wasn't as placid as expected upon their admission and offer of restitution. Instead, he smirked icily, fixing them with a steely gaze. You two are quite obedient. Only now that Deputy Prefect Guan's duplicity is laid bare and he can't deny it, you suddenly find the courage to confess. But what if Deputy Prefect Guan hadn't been exposed? Would you still come forward? Is that what you believe? Do you truly think this matter concludes here? Lord Xiao's voice cut through the tense air, his eyes drilling into them. Do you presume me so easily deceived? That I would allow you to maneuver as you please, advancing and retreating at will? Cold sweat broke out on the brows of the two old masters of the Fan family. Initially confident, they now felt a creeping sense of guilt. They wouldn't admit it before being caught, of course. Even after confessing, Lord Xiao showed no signs of leniency. This prefect was indeed formidable. Xiao Yunduan's tone turned even colder. I care not for your reasons, only the outcome. To withhold such information is to scorn the court and disrespect me. If I fail to administer severe punishment, what becomes of the court's dignity? What of my authority? How can I maintain discipline? The taxes are paid, and the fine amounts to 1,000 taels. Are you satisfied? The two old masters of the Fan family trembled. Satisfied? Their hearts clenched with pain. It was a hefty blow. The second old master Fan attempted to negotiate. Lord, Deputy Prefect Guan's oversight led to this. He failed to investigate thoroughly. This humble servant was merely negligent, not willfully disobedient. Isn't 1,000 taels too severe a penalty euro? That's correct. This humble servant acknowledges fault, but surely the penalty need not be so severe. 1,000 taels. The mere thought of their mother's reaction sent shivers down their spines. The impending chaos was headache-inducing. Xiao Yunduan brushed off their protestations, his tone icy. There's no room for negotiation. Draft the payment details, I'll send the funds to the Fan family and release you. The two old masters of the Fan family were taken aback. Lord. Escort them out. But, my lord, a euro, if the silver isn't delivered, you won't leave. No further discussion. Xiao Yunduan scoffed. Don't think I'll be fooled by any attempts to delay. The two old masters of the Fan family could only exit, crestfallen. The payment details were swiftly penned. The sum of compensation and fine amounted to a staggering 9,100 taels of silver. The brothers exchanged bitter smiles. 9,100 taels of silver. Would mother part with it so easily? The missive was promptly dispatched to the Fan residence. News of Deputy Prefect Guan's demotion and fine, resulting from collusion with the Fan family to exploit land and taxes, rippled through the government office and soon echoed throughout the city. Chapter 1829. Her heart aches for the silver. Simultaneously, rumors circulated that Lord Xiao had issued another decree. Any oversights during the municipal investigations were to be reported to the government office for re-registration. A surprise inspection was slated in a few days, and failure to comply would not be taken lightly. At the mention of this, countless households trembled with fear. Overnight, they scrambled to gather the required funds and surreptitiously re-registered at the government office. Coincidentally encountering acquaintances, they exchanged knowing nods, silently acknowledging the shared predicament. It was as though they were merely strolling through the government office, yet everyone was keenly aware of each other's presence. But that was a concern for another time. Meanwhile, the missive from the two old masters of the Fan family landed in the hands of old Lady Fan, igniting her ire. 9,100 taels. 9,100 taels. Lord Xiao must have a penchant for wealth. Those two sons of mine are utterly useless. They're in a panic over such a trifling matter. Fan Rian's distress deepened upon hearing the contents of the letter. Her heart ached at the thought of parting with the silver. Mother, we can't surrender the silver so readily. It's a disgrace to our Fan family. How will we ever hold our heads high in An's province? Nearly 10,000 taels of silver was no trifling amount. Old Lady Fan's lip curled in disdain. Indeed, it isn't. She was well versed in the art of negotiation. Given the exorbitant demand, she intended to haggle fiercely. At most, her sons would be confined to the government office for a mere 500 meters. She doubted Lord Prefect would dare to take further action against them. Tomorrow, she would dispatch the butler to negotiate. First Madame Fan and second Mrs. Fan grew agitated. They couldn't contain their frustration upon hearing old Lady Fan's plan. She felt no remorse, but they certainly did. What kind of establishment was the state office? To even consider subjecting their sons to imprisonment there. Even if they weren't subjected to hardship, the stigma of being incarcerated in the state office was unbearable. Accustomed to a life of luxury with plush beds and soft pillows, could they possibly sleep and eat well in such a place? Is that any place for people? They lamented. Were they so oblivious to the impact on their reputation in the future? With tearful pleas, they agreed to bring their children, daughters-in-law, and grandchildren to old Lady Fan, hoping to sway her with their collective anguish. No matter what, they had to quickly bring them back. They could not ignore them like this. Fan Rian couldn't help but interject, "Sister-in-law, second sister-in-law, let's not stir up trouble. Lord Xiao won't dare to make things difficult for us. Even if he keeps them there, they'll surely be treated differently. 9,100 taels of silver is not a trifling sum. Surrendering it so easily would only whet Lord Xiao's appetite. Wouldn't our Fan family lose face? We must negotiate. Why not foot the bill yourselves, sister-in-law and second sister-in-law?" Second Mrs. Fan exploded in anger, retorting, "What nonsense are you spouting? Why should we pay? Isn't this an issue that concerns us all? Your own blood brother is the one apprehended by the authorities. Your words are utterly disappointing." Fan Rian, equally incensed, shot back, "The silver belongs to us all. You can't squander it so recklessly. Second sister-in-law, you're too hesitant to part with the silver for second brother's sake. What more is there to say?" "You." "Mother," First Madame Fan intervened, her tone frosty, "this silver is meant for taxes and fines. Isn't it a family matter? We can provide the funds, but we can't let them go for naught. Isn't this blatant coercion?" "Mother, he's your own son." Chapter 1830. Let's go together. If you're unwilling to retrieve them, then so be it. Why don't we all go to the government office and stay together with them? Sister-in-law, they'll have to rely on you to manage the household. Both families harbored resentment towards this woman who married into the family, yet received preferential treatment from the old lady. She seemed more like a true member of the Fan family than they did. Fan Rian felt slighted by the implication but chose to remain silent, attributing it to envy. She offered only a cold smile in response. First Madame Fan said nothing further, leading her family to depart. Second Mrs. Fan swiftly followed suit, declaring, "Sister-in-law, we'll accompany you. Let's go together." "Very well." "How dare you?" Old Lady Fan erupted in fury, slamming her hand on the tea table. "Are you both plotting rebellion? Second Mrs. Fan defended, "Mother, why can't we stand together as a family in times of trouble? It may alleviate some of old master's embarrassment. At the very least, we can share in the burden." First Madam Fan remained silent, though she silently concurred with the sentiment. Old Lady Fan glared at them, her gaze sharp with indignation. She sensed their determination. Furious, Old Lady Fan staggered backward. They were all in open rebellion. But she couldn't possibly allow them to proceed. It would be a complete loss of face for the Fan family. "If you're so concerned about losing face, then leave." Old Lady Fan barked furiously. With a scornful sneer, she declared, "I'll go myself. Let's see if that Lord Prefect dares to detain me too." First Madam Fan and Second Mrs. Fan exchanged a knowing glance and nodded in agreement. They didn't want to relinquish the silver without a fight, but the humiliation was unbearable. Would Lord Xiao even deign to speak reasonably? Would he negotiate with them? He had already subjected them to such humiliation. It was intolerable. If Old Lady Fan personally intervened, Lord Xiao wouldn't dare risk the responsibility if she fell ill or suffered any discomfort while in the office. He wouldn't dare allow such a scenario to unfold. Old Lady Fan's heart skipped a beat as she considered the proposal. It struck her as a brilliant idea. Of course, she wanted to accompany her two daughters-in-law. If she didn't assert her authority now, when would she? Prepare the carriage. I'll leave immediately. However, she deemed it unnecessary for her daughters-in-law to accompany her. As the matriarch of the Fan family, she needed to retain some semblance of dignity. Unlike them, she couldn't afford to compromise her standing. Before they could act, the housekeeper rushed in. Old Lady Fan, First Madam, Second Mrs. Fan, Mrs. Bai, Madam Xiao has arrived euro, what? Everyone was taken aback. Fan Ruyan sneered. What audacity! What is she doing here? When the prefect's wife paid a visit, none dared to refuse her. Old Lady Fan instructed the juniors to depart, leaving only her two daughters-in-law and Fan Ruyan. She sneered, "Very well, let's see what she has to say. Bring her in." The women of the Fan family awaited her arrival with simmering resentment. Qiao Xian ushered Li Xia and Kaiyue into the room, while Ai stood guard outside the door. Typically, male servants weren't permitted in the backyard. But Ai's intimidating glare dared anyone to challenge him. First Madam Fan and Second Mrs. Fan rose to greet Xiao Xian, mindful that their husbands were still detained. Fan Ruyan shot a disdainful glance at Xiao Xian, her lips curling into a sneer. Old Lady Fan, asserting her seniority, remained seated, unwilling to welcome her. Chapter 1831, Xiao Xian's visit. In truth, Old Lady Fan's demeanor was frosty. As Xiao Xian took her seat, Old Lady Fan fixed her with a sneer. "Madam Xiao, what brings you here to detain my two sons?" Xiao Xian maintained a composed smile. "Didn't old Master Fan correspond with us, old lady?" He elucidated the situation thoroughly. "Our lord has shown leniency by imposing a mere 1,000 taels of silver as punishment. However, anticipating any misconceptions, I've come to clarify matters." She extended a small token. "This is a gesture of our lord's goodwill." Fan Ruyan couldn't resist interjecting, "Madam Xiao, you're correct. Our family's finances aren't bottomless. Isn't demanding nearly 10,000 taels a bit excessive? I speak plainly, Madam Xiao, please don't take offense." "Indeed, Madam Xiao," Second Mrs. Fan chimed in. "Let's resolve this matter amicably. There's nothing insurmountable, is there? The Fan family is renowned in An's province. Lord Xiao's leniency grants us face, and naturally, the Fan family reciprocates euro." The implication was clear. In the future, the Fan family would collaborate with Lord Xiao's governance, ready to assist whenever he required their aid. First Madam Fan, wary of Fan Ruyan's potential arrogance, intervened with a smile. Second Mrs. Fan quickly echoed her agreement, eager to avoid conflict. Both women harbored a fear of the old lady and her daughter, especially Fan Ruyan. Her domineering nature had strained her relationship with her husband to the point where he seemed like a distant stranger. She couldn't bear to see others thrive, and her eccentric behavior extended even to her own family. Old Lady Fan huffed in disapproval, shooting a cold glance at her daughters-in-law, but refrained from speaking. In public, she understood the importance of saving face. However, Qiao Xian remained unmoved. She wasn't there to negotiate but to deliver a warning. Mrs. Fan, you seem to have misunderstood. Qiao Xian maintained her calm demeanor. I believe there's little to discuss, correct? My lord has already displayed clemency. Old Lady Fan seethed with anger. Detaining her isn't letting her off. Qiao Xian met her gaze squarely. Isn't it? The Fan family concealed the truth, and according to the law, you should face fines exceeding 2,000 taels. Yet, our lord only demands 1,000 taels. Isn't that an act of mercy? But even if we're required to pay, shouldn't he release our people from the government office? Old Lady Fan countered. We cannot release them without the full payment, as dictated by the laws of Great Qin, Qiao Xian calmly stated, her smile unwavering. First, Madam Fan, if you doubt my words, feel free to verify them. We've only detained 2 old masters today. If the Fan family is truly reluctant to pay, our lord deems it reasonable. However, we must thoroughly investigate this matter. Anyone involved must report to the government office for questioning Euro, farm stewards, mansion housekeepers, old Master Fan's trusted aides, Madam Fan's household staff, and so forth. No one will be exempt. I believe a thorough inquiry will shed light on this matter. The members of the Fan family were all speechless. Chapter 1832, a bright threat. She was poised to upheave the entire Fan clan. Old Lady Fan nearly erupted with fury. Rising to her feet, she sneered, if that's the case, why don't you start with me, Madam Xiao? Why don't you take me back to court? No need for that, Qiao Xian replied with a gracious wave of her hand. You're too elderly for such proceedings. You can attend to your children. However, Mrs. Bai must accompany us. Why should I? Fan Rian erupted in anger. I fail to see how this is my concern. Qiao Xian was taken aback. Aren't you a member of the Fan family? Fan Rian flushed with embarrassment. Of course I am. Madam Xiao, don't sow discord. But why should I be involved in this? Exactly. Qiao Xian maintained her smile. Since the Fan family disputes this matter, our lord must conduct a thorough interrogation, with all family members present to cooperate. You're no exception. Indeed. Old Lady Fan, you needn't trouble yourself. After all, you're elderly, and our lord is compassionate. Fan Rian seethed with speechless anger. First Madame Fan and second Mrs. Fan exchanged a glance, finding solace in Madame Xiao's words, for some inexplicable reason. Old Lady Fan, capitalizing on her seniority, sneered defiantly. As the head of the Fan family, it's only fitting for me to attend the government office. That won't be necessary, Qiao Xian replied calmly, showing no haste. Old Lady Fan, all you need to do is pay the sum. Insisting on attending could lead to complications. What if you encounter discomfort or illness? It would create unnecessary trouble. Then, if first Old Master Fan and second Old Master Fan were deemed unfilial, you'd have to escalate such a trivial matter to court. Our Great Qin does not tolerate unfilial behavior. Our lord will ensure they are duly punished. Qiao Xian asserted firmly. Old Lady Fan, already formidable in her own right, was momentarily taken aback by Qiao Xian's audacity. Fan Rian's eyes widened in disbelief. Had her understanding of the world been so limited? Could truth be distorted to such an extent? However, Qiao Xian remained composed, unfazed by their reactions. In essence, once the payment was made, all would be resolved. Otherwise, the Fan family would soon discover whether they could afford the consequences. Lord Xiao was resolute and would not relent. Both she and Xiao Yunduan had anticipated Old Lady Fan's obstinance, recognizing the possibility that she might exploit her seniority to evade consequences. If she were to claim discomfort or illness at court, Xiao Yanduan's hands would be tied. Hence, preventing her departure from the Fan family was their only recourse. As an elderly woman, she was shielded from interference by the deputy prefect, scribes, or constables. No one would dare lay a hand on her. Except for Qiao Xian. Qiao Xian, being the prefect's wife, held a unique position. Old Lady Fan was restrained in her presence. As women, Qiao Xian had the audacity to take action where others could not. If Qiao Xian could simply elucidate the situation, Old Lady Fan would realize she had no recourse. Feeling utterly despondent, Old Lady Fan was on the verge of exploding. She had never encountered such blatant intimidation before. Lord Xiao's obstinacy was exasperating, and his wife proved to be equally troublesome. Her daughter's warnings seemed all too prescient now. Despite her hardened exterior, Old Lady Fan couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for her son. Unaware of Qiao Xian's jest, she fixated on her with a venomous glare. Then waved the 1,000 tael fine. Well, make amends. It's not that we refuse to pay, but your officials were negligent. You can't hold us accountable. Chapter 1833. It's all his. If we don't remind Thema Euro, why bother reminding them? We're not the ones who made the mistake. Qiao Xian couldn't help but notice the striking similarity in their excuses, almost as if they were mother and son. Deputy Prefect Guan, or rather, Scribe Guan now, was just a disposable tool in their hands, discarded once they were done with him. The blame, however, seemed to fall solely on his shoulders. She pondered what his reaction would be if he ever realized the truth. Cooperating with the investigation is the right thing to do. If you can't comply, then accept the consequences. What more is there to discuss? Whether Deputy Prefect Guan is at fault or not, he will face the consequences. These are separate matters. Are you pretending not to understand? Deputy Prefect Guan is no longer in office. He merely levied a fine of 1,000 taels of silver against you, Old Lady Fan. That's quite generous, considering. Exemption from fines? Preposterous. Qiao Xian stood firm, refusing to budge, and she made it clear that Old Lady Fan wouldn't be allowed to leave either. If cooperation was denied, the entire Fan family would be summoned for further inquiry. Until the investigation reached its conclusion, no one would be permitted to leave. Whether the Fan clan descended into chaos due to this was entirely their concern. As for Qiao Xian, she would accompany Old Lady Fan and ensure she didn't cause any trouble at the court. Old Lady Fan seethed with anger, her vision darkening with rage. The fire in her heart refused to die down. Qiao Xian had made one thing abundantly clear: settling the debt and paying up would be the only way for the Fan family to salvage some dignity. Old Lady Fan instructed the housekeeper to fetch the banknotes from the accounts with a bitter smile. Lord Xiao, Madam Xiao, you've proven your prowess. We concede. Take this money and release my sons. She couldn't resist remarking, An's province has its own way of doing things. If Lord Xiao insists on applying rules from elsewhere to ensnare us here, he might find himself coming up short. Given Lord Xiao's commitment to the people, I wonder when he plans to tackle the bandit issue up in the mountains? Ignoring such a significant threat doesn't seem quite right. Qiao Xian beamed proudly, blurting out, "Those bandits are no match. They're just lurking in the wilderness, and our Lord will surely deal with them. We've only recently posted the recruitment notice, let's give them a chance to surrender." Ha! Old Lady Fan couldn't help but scoff. Is that so? Lord Xiao is quite the hero. Our Lord is both intelligent and courageous. Humph. Qiao Xian declined the banknotes, instead instructing the Fan family's housekeeper to take them to the prefectural office and bring back the two elder Fan masters. I've come here today to remind you and the ladies to clarify this matter to them. It wasn't right for me to accept the money. We must distinguish between personal and public affairs. Old Lady Fan and the others were left speechless. After all that had been said, now she was talking about distinctions between public and private matters. Desperate for Qiao Xian to leave, Old Lady Fan instructed the housekeeper to proceed to the court. As soon as the housekeeper departed, Qiao Xian rose with a smile and took her leave. Upon returning to the government office, Xiao Yunduan had already retired to his chambers. He greeted her with a smile, remarking, "If you hadn't returned, I was planning to fetch you from the Fan family myself." Old Lady Fan was truly obstinate. His wife had only just returned after some time. Chapter 1834. Moving out. Xiao Xian retorted sharply, "I am the prefect's wife, and the Fan family poses no threat to me." With the Fan family's affairs settled, Xiao Yunduan instructed his men to monitor Deputy Prefect Guan and urged him to vacate the premises. The western courtyard was thrown into disarray. Mrs. Guan's cries and shouts echoed, her piercing voice reaching even the eastern courtyard. Yet, she dared not confront Xiao Xian the Rayuro, whether out of fear or caution, perhaps warned by Deputy Prefect Guan. Ignoring the occasional curses hurled her way, Xiao Xian remained steadfast as long as she didn't give chase. Given Deputy Prefect Guan's dismissal, it was only natural for him to relocate from the government office's premises. There was no other choice. In the western courtyard, Mrs. Guan was devastated. Despite her prolonged tears, she couldn't find solace. It felt surreal, as if she had been cast into a nightmare. Was she no longer the deputy prefect's wife? Had her husband been reduced to a mere scribe? Setting aside the substantial disparity in income between the deputy prefect's annual salary of 200 taels of silver and a scribe's meager less than 30 taels, her social status had plummeted. How would she ever face society again? Initially refusing to budge, Mrs. Guan had regarded this place as her sanctuary, having resided here for so many years. However, the bailiff's ultimatum to vacate within 3 days or face expulsion by Lord Xiao left her seething with anger and resentment, prompting her to reluctantly order the packing of her belongings. Simultaneously, she dispatched people to organize the house. In addition to their current residence in An's province, they possessed another courtyard. It was neither grandiose nor modest, but sufficient for their family's needs. Yet, they seethed with indignation. Even if you haven't contributed lately, your past efforts speak volumes, old master. You've dedicated so much to An's province. How can Lord Xiao dismiss you so callously? It seems he's reluctant to admit his failure to shake An's province to its core and incite widespread panic. You've served as deputy prefect for a decade. What transgression warranted your expulsion? As Mrs. Guan continued, her despondency deepened. She exclaimed furiously, "I refuse to leave. I won't budge an inch. Let's see if they have the gall to forcibly eject us. If they dare lay a hand on my possessions, they'll challenge their authority." Is there no law for princes, kings, or rulers? Initially, Mrs. Guan had hoped to remain in the eastern courtyard, but now even the western courtyard was off limits. How could she not be furious? Deputy Prefect Guan glanced at her, his smile tinged with coldness, as he recounted the ordeal with the Fan family. "You're well aware of old Lady Fan's character, aren't you? She won't yield an inch to the Xiao couple. Do you honestly believe we stand a chance?" Mrs. Guan was left speechless. Don't let anger consume you, Deputy Prefect Guan sighed wearily, rubbing his tired forehead. His cold eyes betrayed no emotion. Just observe. This is merely a setback. We may yet find an opportunity to turn the tide. Mrs. Guan sneered, her teeth clenched. Fine, I'll heed old master's advice. An's province operates by its own rules. Let's see how it all unfolds in the end. Less than 3 days later, on the second day, Deputy Prefect Guan's family vacated their residence. Mrs. Guan's disdain for Xiao Yunduan was palpable. She stripped the house bare of anything movable, leaving not a single curtain behind. She even instructed the servants to uproot numerous flowers and trees from the garden, claiming she had planted them herself. Since she was leaving, she insisted on taking them along. The once lush garden was now a chaotic scene of upturned soil, broken branches, and scattered leaves, a testament to Mrs. Guan's spiteful departure. Chapter 1835. The opportunity has finally come. Xiao Xian remained silent, fully aware that she lacked the capability to overhaul the entire garden. But in truth, it hardly mattered. Her intention was to revamp the garden entirely. She envisioned adding more strawberry patches in one corner, alongside dragon fruit, lychee, longan, cherry, passion fruit, lemon, and various other fruit trees. Her plan was to plant at least 2 of each, ensuring an abundance of fresh fruits. As Deputy Prefect Guan's family departed, the family of Jia Heming promptly moved in. Both Mrs. Jia and Mrs. Guan harbored dreams they never thought would materialize, residing in the government office's backyard. On the day of their arrival, Mrs. Jia paid a visit to Qiao Xian at the eastern courtyard. Her demeanor exuded humility without veering into flattery, making everyone feel at ease. Qiao Xian found this unexpected. Mrs. Jia, wife of Jia Heming, proved to be a woman of virtue, far surpassing Mrs. Guan. Jia Heming himself was elated. He had longed to demonstrate his abilities and achieve something noteworthy. Yet, each prefect lord had treated this land as temporary, fixating on departing as swiftly as possible. Naturally, none cared about leaving a lasting impact. As time wore on, Jia Heming grew increasingly disheartened. Though he managed to eke out a living, he remained somewhat out of sync with the others, thus earning the disdain of Deputy Prefect Guan. However, there was nothing particularly remarkable about him. Deputy Prefect Guan saw some utility in having such an individual around, so he harbored no intention of ousting him. For Jia Heming, leaving the government office voluntarily was out of the question. What prospects awaited a cultivated talent like himself elsewhere? His position at the state office, though sometimes idle, was still preferable to most other professions. Seeking a similar post elsewhere after departing An's province would be nothing short of wishful thinking. Yet, deep down, he still yearned to forge a career. And finally, an opportunity presented itself. Replacing Deputy Prefect Guan didn't trouble Jia Heming in the least. Lord Shao had already displayed remarkable leniency by retaining someone with Deputy Prefect Guan's dubious intentions within the government office. Any other ruler would have likely thrown him behind bars. This significant reshuffling within the state office served as a sobering reminder for the families across An's province. They grew more circumspect in their words and actions, realizing they could ill afford to underestimate the current prefect lord. If Deputy Prefect Guan, a figure entrenched in An's province for a decade, could be dealt with so swiftly, then others stood even less of a chance. There were whispers circulating among the populace, mocking the prefect lord for his perceived complacency and obstinacy. If he could dismiss someone like Deputy Prefect Guan, who could he rely on? Jia Heming? Who was Jia Heming anyway? His name was virtually unheard of. Without Deputy Prefect Guan's support, the future of An's province seemed uncertain. Leaders from the Min family tribe, Liuha Fort, and Tiger Head tribe convened at the Min family tribe to address the recent grain thefts. In years past, the issue of food distribution hadn't been such a hassle. The government of An's prefecture and the affluent families maintained an unspoken agreement. These families would manage the distribution of food themselves, collecting and transporting it from designated locations with assistance from villagers. Of course, this food was provided by the city. But this year, not only did the prefect lord refuse to allow the city's wealthy families to continue supplying food, he also issued a ludicrous recruitment notice. What a farce! It was maddening. The trio managed to obtain a copy of the notice from a villager and read it aloud. It was both amusing and infuriating. Chapter 1836, Recruitment Certificate. The bandits couldn't resist ridiculing the prefect lord, deriding him as a mere bukormayuro, pedantic, absurd, and ignorant. They wondered if he had only ascended to his position this year. While they roamed the mountains, the prefect lord was likely burning the midnight oil, buried in his books. To think he had the audacity to issue such proclamations to Thimayuro, it must have been a strain for him to fill a piece of paper with such nonsense. They yearned to descend the mountain immediately and teach that reckless prefect lord a lesson, to show him the boundaries of his speech. What a load of rubbish, this so-called recruitment. They felt insulted by such words. If they didn't know that the prefect lord had a handful of constables and subordinates skilled in martial arts, if they weren't aware of their grasp of the imperial court's constraints, they wouldn't have hesitated to raid An's province, let alone venture into the government office to stir up trouble. As they gathered, they couldn't resist mocking and jesting at the purported documents. Lord Shao must have lost his mind. These scholarly types are all the same euro, lost in their books. Heh, he's quite confident. Let's see how that turns out for him. This time, we're not just after food. We're going to give him a lesson he won't forget, so he learns not to overstep. In the end, the bandits reached a unanimous decision. They would join forces in this endeavor. Failure was not an option. They were determined to deliver a resounding blow to that pedantic prefect lord with their actions. As luck would have it, they had learned that the next shipment of grain would be making its way back to An's province city from Liangshan town in 3 days' time. Liangshan town, situated to the north of An's province, lay 100 miles away from the city. En route, they would pass through a vast rock canyon spanning over 10 miles. The canyon, deep and lengthy, boasted towering cliffs on either side and treacherous peaks. Remarkably, this colossal rock formation was situated not far from Liuhe Fort. It seemed like the perfect gathering point for their plans. The second-in-command of the Tiger Head tribe spoke with icy resolve. "I'll lead the charge. Those constables are going to meet their end." After half a year of recuperation, his injuries had finally healed. But this matter had left him deeply humiliated. It felt like a stain on his honor, a wound that refused to heal. He couldn't bear the thought of facing his comrades with his head held low. Revenge was now imperative. Only by avenging his past humiliation could he regain his dignity. Moreover, he harbored a deep-seated hatred for the prefect lord. Despite his outward appearance of recovery, he knew his Buddhist foundation remained compromised. His strength and agility were but shadows of their former selves. If it came to a fight, his endurance would pale in comparison to what it once was. The momentary lapse in judgment had led to grave consequences. How could he not feel enraged? The fourth-in-command of the Min family tribe chuckled softly. "I have no objections to you leading the charge, but let's not rush to execute the leaders. I prefer to capture them alive, bring them back to our mountain stronghold, and let you unleash your fury upon them." Second-in-command Chao looked at him disapprovingly. The fourth-in-command of the Min family tribe grinned. "Our fourth brother has taken a liking to that horse and wishes to pressure Lord Shao into exchanging it for another. Second brother Chao, I'd appreciate your assistance in this matter." In the Min family tribe, the first and third heads bore the surname Min, while the second-in-command and fourth-in-command adopted the surname Min as well, making all 4 leaders Min family heads. Second-in-command Chao frowned reluctantly. "Exchange hostages? I can't guarantee their survival." Chapter 1837, discussing the tribulation of food. Second-in-command Min remained nonchalant. "As long as Lord Shao believes they're still breathing and is willing to trade that horse, it matters little to me." Understanding his implication, the group exchanged knowing glances and chuckled. Even second-in-command Chao joined in, his laughter laced with a fierce edge. "Fine, well, nab him alive. Once he's in my grasp, hell rue the day he set foot in this world." As bandits, reneging on promises to authorities was par for the course. So what if they didn't release him after securing the horse? If Lord Shao had the gall, he could come to the mountain and contest with them. Fourth-in-command Min chuckled, laying claim to the horse. "That steed is a gem. I saw it first. None of you better lay a finger on it when the time comes." Second-in-command Chao snorted. "I only seek retribution." Though the others were tempted, fourth-in-command Min's declaration left them with little choice but to acquiesce with smiles. As the bandits plotted their grain heist, Xiao Yunduan, Jing Sang, Sun Bai, Sun Qian, Wu Guan, and the Wei brothers, sent by Meng Wanfu, convened to discuss the topography of An's province. Zheng Sang and the others, seasoned in military strategy, could easily anticipate the tactics of these unconventional mountain bandits. Lord Shao's arrogant attitude, epitomized by his measly offering of 1,000th of a tael, seemed to belittle the bandits as mere weaklings. Such hubris would undoubtedly stoke their fury. These bandits were untamed and boastful, accustomed to referring to themselves as princes, kings, and monarchs. How could they tolerate such insolence? How could they resist the urge to teach Lord Shao a humiliating lesson? Moreover, with the upcoming shipment of food passing through the treacherous rock canyon en route from Liangshan town, the bandits saw an irresistible opportunity for plunder. Despite the inevitable heightened vigilance from the government, they remained undeterred. Their lack of knowledge about the government's true strength, coupled with their belief that any previous defeats were due to underestimating the enemy, fueled their confidence. This time, they meticulously planned every detail. How could the government hope to stand against them? Xiao Yinduan cast a grave glance at his companions, speaking in a hushed tone. The mountain bandits may underestimate our strength, but we mustn't underestimate theirs. We must be thoroughly prepared this time. Remember, stay vigilant and never let your guard down. There's no room for mercy this time. Shoot on sight and capture the bandit leader alive if possible. Yes, Lord. With Jia Heming as deputy prefect, Xiao Yinduan felt a weight lifted from his shoulders. At least now, he didn't have to be as vigilant when organizing dispatches. Deputy Prefect Guan, or rather, Scribe Guan, was so enraged that he feigned illness and avoided attending court. He remained holed up at home recuperating. Xiao Yinduan couldn't have asked for a better outcome and eagerly awaited his recovery. A few days after Scribe Guan and his family vacated the backyard, the Fan family unexpectedly sent a letter to Qiao Xian, inviting the prefect's wife and the deputy prefect's wife to their mansion to admire chrysanthemums, enjoy wine, and listen to opera. Mrs. Jia found herself in a quandary. She was reluctant to attend such a high-profile event, particularly at the Fan family's residence, which she suspected harbored ulterior motives. Chapter 1838, Fan Family's Treat. I've never attended such a large family banquet before. I'm feeling quite unprepared and uncertain. What if I embarrass myself? Perhaps I should find a polite excuse to decline the invitation. We can discuss it further later. Madam Xiao, what do you think? Qiao Xian offered a reassuring smile. First, Madam Fan extended a personal invitation, so it wouldn't be wise to decline. Don't fret, I'll be by your side. And as the wife of the deputy prefect, even old lady Fan will have to accord you some respect. What's there to fear? The Fan clan might be influential, but it's not a den of tigers. Just stick with me when the time comes. Well, Mrs. Jia couldn't refuse Qiao Xian's kindness. After some thought, she nodded with a smile. All right, I'll trust your guidance, and I hope you'll offer some advice. Don't worry. Although, I should caution you that Scribe Guan's wife might also be in attendance. Just be mentally prepared. Scribe Guan's wife? Initially unfamiliar with the term, Mrs. Jia's anxiety heightened as she pondered. Qiao Xian chuckled. It's no secret that old lady Fan and the lady of the Fan family have never seen eye to eye with me. And Scribe Guan's wife isn't one to be underestimated either. She's not one to take being sidelined lightly. It's only natural for the Fan family to extend an invitation to her. Wasn't it obvious that he was aiming to stir up trouble and enjoy the spectacle? Mrs. Jia glanced anxiously at Qiao Xian. Indeed, Mrs. Guan was not one to be trifled with. Historically, all the scribes' wives had to cater to her whims. Those who failed to flatter her adequately or were simply not to her liking were met with disdain and ridicule. Jia Heming had never found favor with Scribe Guan, and Mrs. Jia had been subjected to Mrs. Guan's mockery. Given Mrs. Guan's volatile nature, encountering her at the Fan family's gathering could easily lead to confrontation. Wouldn't that mean? Qiao Xian grinned. What's there to fear? We won't incite trouble, but we won't allow ourselves to be pushed around either. She's merely a scribe's wife, there's no need to be intimidated. If she crosses a line, give her a piece of your mind. She won't relent unless Scribe Guan intervenes, and I doubt he'd be willing to do that. Though still somewhat apprehensive, Mrs. Jia felt reassured by Qiao Xian's words. After a moment's consideration, she nodded with a smile. You're right. I'll trust your judgment. Qiao Xian's smile widened. Don't fret. If she oversteps, I won't hesitate to address it. Xiao Yinduan had been instrumental in promoting Deputy Prefect Jia, and during a conversation with Qiao Xian in the office, he expressed great satisfaction with Jia's performance. He was even pleasantly surprised by Jia's adept handling of various administrative tasks, marveling at his efficiency and organization. Since assuming the role of deputy prefect, Jia's capabilities had grown exponentially compared to his time as a scribe. Xiao Yunduan couldn't help but feel fortunate. He had stumbled upon a valuable asset. It was only natural for Qiao Xian to safeguard Mrs. Jia. They were a team, after all. Mrs. Jia felt completely reassured. With a smile, she rose and took her leave. Chapter 1839. Just what I wanted. Xiao Xian paused, a subtle smile playing on her lips. She then instructed Li Xia and Li Qiu to fetch some attire suitable for the upcoming banquet at the Fan family's residence in a couple of days. Unbeknownst to Mrs. Jia, Xiao Xian regarded the Fan family's invitation merely as an opportunity to advance her own agenda. With Xiao Yunduan having already incurred the wrath of the bandits from the 3 villages, Xiao Xian was eager to provoke the Fan family as well. It could potentially yield favorable results. Both Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian harbored suspicions that these affluent families might have clandestine dealings with the bandits. The Mei family and the Hua family appeared to adopt a neutral stance, seemingly aligning themselves with whichever faction emerged victorious. Consequently, Xiao Yunduan deemed them unworthy of serious consideration. Banditry was rampant in An's province, forcing many to engage in covert transactions for survival. This was an accepted reality. However, the deep-seated animosity the old lady of the Fan family harbored towards Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian raised doubts about whether she would seek to establish any form of collaboration. Xiao Yunduan's strategy involved eliminating the mountain bandits before consolidating control over An's province's local power structure. This approach would facilitate smoother execution of commands, circumventing the need for incessant clashes with influential family clans. Few things were as daunting as the prospect of dismantling one of the 3 mighty clans, namely, the Fan clan. The Fan family likely never imagined that, in the eyes of the prefect, their reckoning loomed on the horizon. That morning, after spending some time playing with her son and attending to his needs, Xiao Xian entrusted him to the care of the nanny and maids. She then changed into her attire as a guest, tidied her hair, and dispatched a servant to summon Mrs. Jia. Xiao Xian's attire was resplendent, a vibrant satin gown adorned with inch-wide silver trimmings along the sleeves, collar, and lapels. Delicate begonia flowers were intricately embroidered onto the edges, complemented by a pleated white silk skirt. Her hair was styled into an elegant bun, accented by a peach-shaped red jade ornament with rubies, and adorned with diamond-shaped beaded jade hairpins at the temples. With lightly brushed eyebrows, delicately tinted cherry lips, and a complexion akin to smooth jade, her minimal makeup enhanced her clear autumn eyes and radiant smile. Each gesture exuded grace and poise befitting the prefect's wife, commanding respect without appearing domineering. Mrs. Jia, too, was attired for the occasion, donning a silver-blue embroidered gown paired with a golden hairpin, emanating an air of dignified elegance. These matching grape ornaments were a special gift from Xiao Xian to Deputy Prefect Jia upon his recent promotion, exquisitely crafted and adorned with rubies and sapphires, exuding opulent splendor. This pair of golden hairpins was valued at around 500 taels of silver, a sum far beyond Jia Hemming's means. Upon receiving the gift, the couple was taken aback. Though they couldn't ascertain its exact value, they could discern its extravagance. Mrs. Jia hesitated to accept it, considering its exorbitant worth, and suggested returning it to Xiao Xian. However, Jia Hemming insisted they retain the gift, proposing instead to express their gratitude personally by sending a gift to the east courtyard the following day. It was the first time Mrs. Jia had adorned herself with these golden hairpins to receive guests. Despite feeling a bit anxious, Xiao Xian's compliment eased her nerves. "These golden hairpins suit you perfectly, Mrs. Jia. They enhance your appearance beautifully. I have a knack for selecting gifts." "Indeed, you do." Mrs. Jia responded with a smile, feeling reassured. Unperturbed by the anticipation of the grand entrance, Xiao Xian remained unfazed. Upon their arrival at the Fan family's residence, they discovered they weren't the last to arrive, though nearly all the guests had assembled. Chapter 1840. Confrontation. Second Mrs. Fan was hosting the guests in the garden pavilion, while First Madame Fan stepped out to welcome Xiao Xian. Fan Rian, adorned in resplendent attire, trailed behind them, wearing a smile. First Madame Fan's expression darkened momentarily, but unable to voice her thoughts, she relented. Upon spotting Xiao Xian and Mrs. Jia, First Madame Fan warmly greeted them upon their arrival at the mansion. Though no one else noticed, Mrs. Jia caught several disdainful glances from Fan Rian. Feeling irritated, she suppressed her emotions and feigned ignorance. Unbeknownst to her, Fan Rian's contempt for her deepened. In Fan Rian's eyes, Mrs. Jia appeared undeserving of her position as the deputy prefect's wife, seemingly elevated through sycophancy rather than merit. With a smile, Fan Rian remarked, Madame Xiao and Mrs. Jia seem to share a close bond. The relationship between the deputy prefect's wife and the prefect's wife is truly exceptional. Xiao Xian shot her a glance before nodding with a polite smile. Fan Rian grudgingly acquiesced, but before she could question why Mrs. Jia hadn't been as close to Mrs. Guan before, First Madame Fan swiftly intervened. Sensing the impending negativity, First Madame Fan swiftly redirected the conversation with a smile. Sister, are the pastries in the pastry room prepared? Could you please check for me? I'd greatly appreciate it. Though disgruntled, Fan Rian couldn't openly defy her sister-in-law's request. Reluctantly, she complied, casting a disdainful glance at First Madame Fan before departing. What was her sister-in-law insinuating? Madame Xiao and Lord Xiao held no regard for the Fan family. They had brought disgrace upon them, causing considerable financial losses. So why should she restrain herself from making a few cutting remarks? Did the Fan family now grovel at the feet of others? Since when had the Fan family become so feeble and susceptible to bullying? After being slapped, were they to eagerly present their cheeks for another strike? Was her mother's invitation merely a facade to reconcile with her? Did her sister-in-law remain oblivious to this? First Madame Fan extended polite greetings and ushered Xiao Xian and Mrs. Jia to the pavilion. The assembled guests greeted them warmly, with Xiao Xian reciprocating with a genial smile as she settled beside Mrs. Jia. Many women discreetly appraised Mrs. Jia. While some were familiar with her, most were not. However, today's gathering would acquaint them with her. As the deputy prefect's wife, Mrs. Jia now commanded a different level of respect. Henceforth, any invitation extended to the deputy prefect would naturally include his wife. Inviting the prefect's wife to a banquet was considered an honor. Several guests couldn't help stealing glances at Mrs. Guan. Known for her prickly temperament, her pallid complexion betrayed her inner turmoil. Despite her efforts to maintain composure, her visible tension didn't go unnoticed. Internally, many chuckled, yet a sense of anticipation lingered. It was evident that the Fan family's deliberate inclusion of Mrs. Guan was meant to provoke discord. It appeared the Fan family harbored a deep-seated animosity towards Lord Xiao and Madame Xiaoyuro. Chapter 1841. Meeting on a narrow path. Mrs. Guan braced herself for the challenges she anticipated facing that day. Despite knowing the ordeal that awaited her, she chose to attend nonetheless. Why should she stay away? Her conscience was clear, she had done nothing wrong. If anyone should feel ashamed or avoid confrontation, it was not her. With pursed lips, Mrs. Guan cast a chilling glare at Xiao Xian. Her gaze bore such intensity that it was impossible to ignore. Xiao Xian, however, met her gaze calmly, her expression serene, as though Mrs. Guan were no different from any other guest. Mrs. Guan's chest tightened. One thought echoed in her mind: what audacity! Why did Xiao Xian exude such self-righteousness? Observing this exchange, Mrs. Jia couldn't contain her satisfaction. Finally, Mrs. Guan faced repercussions. Witnessing this was immensely gratifying. The fleeting illusion dissolved as reality set in. Mrs. Guan was no longer the deputy prefect's wife, and her husband had indeed secured a promotion. Fan Rian rolled her eyes and addressed Mrs. Jia with a saccharine smile. Mrs. Jia, what a delightful surprise to have you here. Although we've never met before, today provides us with an opportunity to acquaint ourselves. You should grace us with your presence more often, it would afford us the chance to forge a deeper connection. Much like with Mrs. Guan, we're all quite familiar with each other here. Since you're a regular attendee, I'm sure you're well acquainted with Mrs. Guan, aren't you? Mrs. Guan's disdain was evident in her sneer, cutting through the air with clarity. Throughout the gathering, numerous glances exchanged conveyed subtle messages, laden with meaning or ambiguity. Feeling somewhat uneasy, Mrs. Jia sought solace in Xiao Xian's composed demeanor as she conversed with another guest, seemingly oblivious to the tension. Mustering her resolve, Mrs. Jia nodded in agreement with Fan Ruyan's compliment. "Your kindness is greatly appreciated, Mrs. Bai." In her response, she tacitly endorsed Fan Ruyan's suggestion, signaling her willingness to engage more actively in social gatherings in the future. However, as Mrs. Guan contemplated Mrs. Jia's prospective interactions with the other ladies, attending lavish events, and being accorded the same respect she once enjoyed, a surge of irritation coursed through her. All of this had once been hers. Jia Hemming's efforts to curry favor with Xiao Yunduan, betraying her in the process, had led to her displacement and her husband's downfall. Mrs. Jia, whom she had scarcely acknowledged in the office, now occupied the position she once held. How could she possibly accept this? Rage simmered within Mrs. Guan, manifesting as a slight tremor in her body. She glared at Mrs. Jia with a sharp look. Fan Ruyan's bright smile adorned her face as she coyly covered her mouth, emitting a girlish giggle. "Oh, you're far too kind. Your grace, virtue, and elegance are unmistakable. One glance is all it takes to discern that you're no ordinary woman. It's no wonder you've been blessed with such good fortune. I dare say, your luck still lies ahead of us, doesn't it?" Ha ha ha. With a genial smile, Fan Ruyan directed her question to the assembled guests, each of whom felt compelled to respond with smiles and nods of agreement. Mrs. Guan seethed with mounting fury, her grip on her handkerchief tight enough to fray its edges. She recognized Fan Ruyan's deliberate provocation, yet her anger wasn't directed towards Fan Ruyan herself. Instead, she harbored resentment towards Xiao Xian and Mrs. Jia. Observing Mrs. Jia's uneasy demeanor and awkward response, Mrs. Guan's rage intensified. How could she have been replaced by someone like her, who lacked eloquence and social finesse? Chapter 1842. Most reasonable Mrs. Guan refrained from confronting Xiao Xian directly, yet she harbored no apprehension towards Mrs. Jia, whom she had never held in high regard. Nevertheless, she remained steadfast in her refusal to accept the situation. Fixing her gaze on Mrs. Jia, Mrs. Guan's smile turned icy. "The story isn't over yet. Whether it's a blessing or not remains to be seen." With a smirk, she continued, "But I must say, your attire today is quite the revelation. As the saying goes, fine feathers make fine birds. You appear remarkably presentable today, almost unrecognizable from your former self." A few ladies couldn't stifle their amusement, discreetly covering their mouths to suppress their laughter. Mrs. Guan's thinly veiled mockery of Mrs. Jia's previous modest appearance, contrasted with her current perceived arrogance, did not go unnoticed. Mrs. Jia anticipated Mrs. Guan's taunt, yet found herself at a loss for words. Responding in kind would only reflect poorly on her character, especially considering Mrs. Guan's former position of authority over her. Thus, she treaded carefully, mindful of her former boss' sensitivities and her own gentle disposition. Xiao Xian interjected, directing a pointed glance at Mrs. Guan as she spoke with a placid smile. "Mrs. Guan, perhaps you're unaware, but today is a joyous occasion. As the wife of the deputy prefect, Mrs. Jia is naturally in high spirits, which reflects in her appearance. Naturally, she's inclined to dress accordingly, signaling a change from her previous status." Mrs. Jia expressed her gratitude to Xiao Xian with a nod. "I often stumble over my words, but you articulate things perfectly." Empowered by Xiao Xian's support, Mrs. Jia felt emboldened to assert herself. Observing Xiao Xian's defense of Mrs. Jia, Mrs. Guan's frustration reached its boiling point. During her tenure as the deputy prefect's wife, Xiao Xian had offered her no assistance. Instead, she seemed to single her out for criticism without cause. Jealousy and irritation consumed Mrs. Guan as she spoke up. What's there to be so arrogant about?" Xiao Xian maintained her composure, her smile unwavering. "And what, may I ask, is arrogant about it?" Mr. Jia's promotion naturally brings joy and pride to Mrs. Jia as his wife. It's a simple matter of human nature. Who wouldn't celebrate a positive development? Surely, you wouldn't be pleased if faced with a demotion or adversity in your own family. It's only natural to rejoice in good fortune. You. Mrs. Guan seethed, sensing Qiao Xian's veiled insinuation. With a serene smile, Qiao Xian continued, Mrs. Guan, do you disagree with my assessment? Mrs. Guan's anger threatened to overwhelm her. She scoffed derisively, I wouldn't dare. Who would dare challenge the judgment of the prefect's wife? If we incur her displeasure, who knows what repercussions we might face? Qiao Xian remained unperturbed. No, she countered, I'm known for my fairness, as I'm sure everyone here can attest. Only those seeking special treatment, insisting on being treated differently, would perceive me as unreasonable. As for transparency in outcomes, there's no cause for concern. Whether it's our Lord or myself, we prioritize transparency. If anyone feels uncertain about their situation, it's either due to misunderstanding or an unwillingness to acknowledge the truth. If you have any uncertainties, simply inquire, and clarity will be provided. Oh, don't claim you're too afraid to ask. Doing so would be quite uncivilized behavior. Chapter 1843, Sowing Discord. Mrs. Guan's composure shattered upon hearing Qiao Xian's words. With a disdainful sneer, she retorted, a hooligan? Madame Xiao, that's a bit too far. Madame Xiao remained firm, it's not excessive at all. Consider this, you claim to be aggrieved, yet when questioned about the cause, you remain silent. How can others respond? Enraged, Mrs. Guan shot accusatory glances at both Qiao Xian and Mrs. Jia. Rising from her seat, she snapped, I see through this charade now. You're aiding Mrs. Jia in tormenting me, aren't you? What's the point of rubbing salt in the wound? Haven't you humiliated us enough? If you'd rather not have me here, I'll leave. I won't be a nuisance. Mrs. Guan, please refrain. Fan Ruyan intervened swiftly, aware of the unsightly spectacle unfolding. She attempted to defuse the tension. Guiding Mrs. Guan back to her seat, Fan Ruyan maintained a placating tone, Mrs. Guan, that's not what Madame Xiao intended. You're letting your imagination run wild. Let's calm down. But it's undeniable that Madame Xiao is tending to Mrs. Jia exceptionally well. It's a side of her we haven't seen before. The implication hung in the air, unspoken yet keenly felt. Mrs. Guan's frustration was palpable, and her reaction was understandable. Nevertheless, voicing this sentiment would only exacerbate matters, potentially reopening old wounds. After all, Mrs. Guan's status had changed since her husband's demotion from deputy prefect. Silent exchanges among the onlookers conveyed their astonishment and discomfort. Mrs. Bai had indeed crossed a line. As the wife of the prefect, her words were unmistakably divisive. How could Madame Xiao confront this situation? In truth, Madame Xiao was more than capable of facing it head-on. Instead of directly addressing the question, she responded with a genuine smile, I didn't have the opportunity to get to know Mrs. Jia previously, so I couldn't extend my care to her even if I had wished to. Mrs. Jia stifled a laugh, chiming in, Indeed, I'm delighted to receive your care now, Madame Xiao. When you first arrived in An's province, we hadn't yet acquainted ourselves. The ensuing silence spoke volumes, punctuated by Mrs. Guan and Fan Ruyan's simmering indignation. What was the insinuation behind her words? Madame Xiao's feigned ignorance was transparent. Just then, First Madame Fan returned, ushering everyone to their seats to enjoy the festivities. Fan Ruyan put on a smile, though her eyes betrayed a frosty demeanor. Mrs. Guan shot dagger-like glances at Mrs. Jia throughout the meal, her resentment palpable. During the seating arrangements, Fan Ruyan placed Mrs. Guan at the table with Qiao Xian and Mrs. Jia. Curiously, Mrs. Guan opted to sit beside Mrs. Jia, prompting a subtle sigh of relief from the latter. Mrs. Guan perceived it all as a cheap ploy, a devious stratagem, cursing inwardly, sycophant, deceitful schemer, utterly shameless. She scoffed internally at the implication. So what if she was once the wife of the deputy prefect? She was nothing more than a lapdog at Madame Xiao's side. As the banquet commenced, Qiao Xian's smirk directed towards Mrs. Guan was accompanied by a pointed remark, Mrs. Guan, Perhaps instruct your servants to be cautious when serving, lest Mrs. Jia receive the wrong dish. We wouldn't want rumors circulating about your narrow-mindedness and vengeful intentions, would we? Chapter 1844. Half-joke exposed. Mrs. Guan had contemplated such a move. But even if it seemed obvious, she doubted Mrs. Jia would dare to retaliate. However, Qiao Xian's jesting tone gave her pause. Repeating the act would be undeniably shameless. Though Mrs. Guan didn't find dealing with people like Qiao Xian and Mrs. Jia particularly daunting, she preferred not to draw attention in front of the crowd. What do you mean, Madame Xiao? I'm not quite following. Mrs. Guan feigned surprise, masking her true intentions with a chuckle. My servants are quite astute. They wouldn't be so careless. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding, Madame Xiao. Qiao Xian's smile widened. Ah, excellent then. Fan Ruyan couldn't help but envy Mrs. Guan's composure. Madame Xiao's generosity towards Mrs. Jia, the deputy prefect's wife, is truly remarkable. It's a far cry from her treatment of the deputy prefect's previous wife. The mention of her past status as the deputy prefect's wife nearly caused Mrs. Guan to retch. Qiao Xian's nonchalant reply carried a hint of jest. Well, there are many things you're not privy to. Fan Ruyan choked back a retort. She knew all too well, this person was endlessly vexing. Indeed, the Fan clan lived up to its reputation as one of the three great clans. The array of dishes presented was nothing short of breathtaking, eliciting endless praise. However, Mrs. Guan, her anger simmering beneath the surface, found herself unable to savor the delicacies before her. Standing next to Mrs. Guan, Mrs. Jia elicited a feeling of disdain within her. Mrs. Guan perceived Mrs. Jia as lacking in refinement and sophistication, her eyes lighting up with each dish served as though she had never experienced such fare before. It was a disgrace, especially considering the lavish treatment bestowed upon her by Madame Xiao Euro. Mrs. Guan harbored a fleeting desire to spill her soup on Mrs. Jia, yet Qiao Xian's earlier admonition stayed her hand. After the banquet concluded, the guests gathered in the flower hall to enjoy tea before strolling through the garden to aid digestion and admire the blossoms. While Qiao Xian found himself surrounded by a throng of animated ladies, Mrs. Jia found herself relegated to a secluded corner, conversing with Mrs. Guan. With clenched fists, Mrs. Guan resisted the urge to strike Mrs. Jia. Instead, she offered a chilling smile. Observing Mrs. Jia's fearful and evasive demeanor, Mrs. Guan experienced a conflicting mix of disdain and envy. She despised the fact that someone like Mrs. Jia could dare to tread upon her, figuratively speaking, asserting superiority over her. Envy festered within Mrs. Guan as she pondered Madame Xiao's arrogance and obstinacy. Never once had Madame Xiao deigned to meet her gaze, consistently making her existence arduous and harboring disdain towards her. How could she not feel incensed? With a contemptuous sneer directed at Mrs. Jia, who attempted to evade her verbal assault, Mrs. Guan lashed out. Who would have thought that you'd become so haughty after associating with a prominent family? Humph, your former meekness has given way to smugness. One can indeed never judge a book by its cover. What right have you to act so superior in my presence? You were nothing more than a lapdog to me. How long do you reckon your arrogance will endure? Even our old master, a paragon of virtue, has his limits. I'm curious to see how capable Scribe Jia truly is. Mrs. Jia, unable to stomach Mrs. Guan's shameless tirade, gritted her teeth in frustration. Mrs. Guan, I implore you to mind your manners. There's a line you shouldn't cross. And what if I choose to cross it? Mrs. Guan's anger flared even hotter. Chapter 1845. Madame Xiao's offer. She raised her hand threateningly towards Mrs. Jia, who instinctively recoiled. Amused by Mrs. Jia's reaction, Mrs. Guan chuckled derisively. You're unworthy of being the deputy prefect's wife. What significance do you hold? You're nothing in my eyes. Mrs. Jia retorted, her voice trembling. I may be insignificant, I'm aware of that, but I am still the deputy prefect's wife. You should show me some respect, or else or else what? Mrs. Guan's fury boiled over as she fixed Mrs. Jia with a steely glare. What can you possibly do? Are you threatening me? Mrs. Guan found the situation ludicrous and demeaning. How dare Mrs. Jia assert dominance in her presence? Drawing courage from Madame Xiao's support, Mrs. Guan remained undeterred. Mrs. Jia's heart raced, her legs feeling like jelly. My husband is now the deputy prefect. If you continue like this, I will report your behavior to him. Why wouldn't you? I have every confidence in your loyalty. Mrs. Guan sneered contemptuously. I won't forget how your husband climbed the ranks, even if you choose to overlook it. A man who betrays and schemes for his own advancement is nothing but a tool. Do you truly believe Lord Xiao would condone such treachery? He's merely a pawn in Lord Xiao's game. Mark my words, when he's no longer useful, he'll be discarded like trash by those he once served. What else do you expect? What authority does that haughty prefect's wife possess to shield you? Do you truly believe she acts out of benevolence and affection towards you? How naive. Mrs. Jia, unable to stomach such slander, felt her face flush with anger. Cease your baseless accusations. Madame Xiao is not the person you portray her to be. Anyone with eyes can see that since their arrival in An's province, Madame Xiao and Lord Xiao have conducted themselves with transparency and integrity. It's those accustomed to exploiting others who now resent their loss of opportunity. This is not the fault of Lord Xiao and Madame Xiao. They're working to rectify the situation. Furthermore, my husband did not betray or frame old Master Guan. Unless Mrs. Guan can provide evidence, it would be wise to refrain from spreading unfounded rumors. What will you do if an investigation is launched? Mrs. Jia believed she was offering a gentle reminder, but Mrs. Guan interpreted it as a threat. The former meek woman, who once cowered in his presence, now revealed a sharp and resolute side. She dared to insult her. Mrs. Guan felt herself on the verge of losing control. Indeed, power wielded its influence, emboldening individuals to act more assertively. Mrs. Guan couldn't stand the sight of Mrs. Jia's countenance. She yearned to deliver a resounding slap, reducing her to her knees, begging for clemency. Yet, she retained a semblance of rationality. While she entertained such thoughts, she knew better than to act upon them. Today's gathering boasted a sizable audience. If she, the wife of a mere scribe, were to strike the deputy prefect's wife, she'd become a laughingstock, perceived as a sore loser. As for Madame Xiao, she possessed leverage, undoubtedly poised to exploit it for maximum effect. Chapter 1846. Why should she compensate? Are you attempting to intimidate me? Mrs. Guan sneered, her tone dripping with disdain. Who do you think you are? How dare you threaten me? You want proof? Fine, I'll provide it. Without hesitation, Mrs. Guan removed the jade bracelet from her wrist before Mrs. Jia's bewildered gaze. Brandishing it before her, she released her grip, allowing the bracelet to plummet to the ground, shattering into 3 pieces. Mrs. Jia's eyes widened in astonishment. You! Mrs. Guan's sneer deepened. You've broken my bracelet, a piece valued at 400 taels of silver. Mrs. Jia, are you prepared to compensate me with silver or an equivalent bracelet? The emerald green bracelet emitted a soft, ethereal glow, undoubtedly fetching a hefty sum. Even if its value didn't quite reach 400 taels of silver, it easily exceeded 200 taels a an indisputably pricey item. But Mrs. Jia couldn't possibly afford such a sum, whether it be 200 or 400 taels. Moreover, why should she compensate at all? Mrs. Jia and her attendant were dumbfounded by Mrs. Guan's audacity. It's €1, me? Mrs. Guan scoffed. Do you truly believe I deliberately discarded such a valuable piece of jewelry? Preposterous. It's blatantly obvious. Who would believe such nonsense? Just because you're the wife of the deputy prefect, don't presume you can freely distort the truth and besmirch others' reputations. As Fan Ruyan and her companions enjoyed the flowers, they overheard the confrontation. Stepping forward with a genial smile, Fan Ruyan interjected, Mrs. Guan and Mrs. Jia, you seem quite engrossed in conversation. What's the topic of discussion? Mrs. Guan sneered, wasting no time in recounting the incident. "Mrs. Bai, perhaps you can offer your judgment after presenting her version of events," she demanded. "Shouldn't Mrs. Jia apologize and compensate? This isn't how one should treat others, is it?" Mrs. Jia, on the verge of tears, protested, "I didn't do it. I didn't lay a hand on her bracelet. How could I have broken it? She must have done it herself." Mrs. Guan's sneer persisted. Fan Ruyan maintained a composed smile. "But that contradicts Mrs. Guan's account. Furthermore, why would Mrs. Guan break her own bracelet? It's clearly of considerable value. Mrs. Jia, Deputy Prefect Jia's finances have improved. Affording the compensation shouldn't be an issue for you." Another lady chimed in, smiling, "I find it hard to believe that Mrs. Guan would harm herself just to frame Mrs. Jia. Mrs. Jia can't simply deny responsibility to avoid compensation. That's absolutely right, this is blatant bullying." Mrs. Guan felt a surge of satisfaction as she pressured Mrs. Jia into offering an apology. Fan Ruyan maintained her composure as she spoke. "Mrs. Jia may now hold the position of Deputy Prefect's wife, but that doesn't justify unreasonable behavior. You've undergone quite the transformation, Mrs. Guan. I've encountered you once or twice before, and you're markedly different now. Ever since assuming the role of the Deputy Prefect's wife, you've exhibited a newfound assertiveness. There's nothing you wouldn't dare to do. Even if you dare to act, you must take responsibility for your actions." Mrs. Guan sneered triumphantly. "Exactly. You dare to act, yet refuse to accept accountability? I'm well aware of the grudge you've held against me for some time now, and now you've seized upon an opportunity. If it were any other matter, it might be overlooked. However, this bracelet holds sentimental value for me and is quite valuable. Given our family's financial situation, we can ill afford such losses. Even if you attempt to intimidate me, I have no choice but to speak the truth." Chapter 1847, Each Opinion. Mrs. Jia seethed with fury. "You're twisting the truth." Never had Mrs. Jia imagined she'd face such brazen accusations. Yet, upon reflection, she couldn't deny the logic behind them. She had been painted as despicable and vengeful, unjustly maligned. With Fan Ruyan and the others seemingly aligning against her, Mrs. Jia felt utterly perplexed and cornered. Refusing to concede to false allegations, Mrs. Jia declared, "I will never confess to a crime I didn't commit. I wouldn't even deign to approach Mrs. Guan, let alone harm her or her belongings. If you insist it's me, then she lacks evidence. Let's seek resolution from Madame Xiao." "Why bother?" Mrs. Guan sneered, her jealousy palpable. "Isn't it obvious she's biased in your favor? Are you seeking refuge?" Ignoring the jibe, Mrs. Jia turned to leave. Mrs. Guan blocked her path, bellowing, "You're not going anywhere until we settle this." Mrs. Jia's tone turned icy. "Even if it means taking this to court, you can't detain me, can you?" "To court?" Ha! It was clear who held sway in the court of law, Lord Xiao. Anger coursed through Mrs. Jia as she trembled with frustration. Dealing with Mrs. Guan proved far more challenging than Mrs. Jia anticipated. Her demeanor bordered on bullying, leaving Mrs. Jia feeling backed into a corner. It seemed that unless Mrs. Jia capitulated to Mrs. Guan's accusations, she'd inevitably be branded as the wrongdoer. It was a crowded affair, and upon hearing the news, Qiao Xian instructed Li Xia to summon both Mrs. Jia and Mrs. Guan. With the prefect's wife intervening, everyone fell in line. Mrs. Guan shot Mrs. Jia a disdainful glance, her sneer dripping with contempt. "Seems you have someone in your corner. Let's see how you try to twist the truth now." Aware of Qiao Xian's staunch support for Mrs. Jia and their ongoing feud, onlookers began to cast speculative glances at Mrs. Jia. Sympathy naturally gravitated towards the underdog. Since Xiao Yanduan's arrival in An's province, his decisive and efficient leadership had compelled these entrenched family clans to relinquish their unwarranted privileges. While they may not have been entirely swayed by the prefect, they certainly had to heed his directives. The same held true for Qiao Xian. Seeing Mrs. Guan embroiled in trouble, pity welled up among the onlookers. Deep down, bias crept in as some silently pinned the blame on Mrs. Jia. After all, it wasn't entirely inconceivable for Mrs. Jia to have broken Mrs. Guan's bracelet euro when they convened before Qiao Xian. Mrs. Guan wasted no time in presenting her side of the story. She asserted that Mrs. Jia had shattered her bracelet during their altercation, yet adamantly denied any culpability. With a mocking tone, she addressed Qiao Xian. I understand your protective stance towards her, Madame Xiao, but I fear my words may fall on deaf ears. Nonetheless, I must speak my truth. Mrs. Jia seethed with frustration. Madame Xiao, I didn't even come into contact with her, let alone her bracelet. Mrs. Guan is fabricating this entire ordeal. Sheyuro, not only was Mrs. Guan falsely accusing her, but she was also dragging Qiao Xian into the fray. Unless Qiao Xian chose to compensate Mrs. Guan, Mrs. Jia faced the looming threat of biased judgment. Regret gnawed at Mrs. Jia. She had sensed Mrs. Guan's ill intentions all along. Why had she agreed to meet with her alone? Even if she insisted on going solo, she could have opted out. Mrs. Guan's face contorted with resentment as she sneered incessantly, masking her true feelings of powerlessness beneath a facade of apparent suffering. Chapter 1848, Venting anger in the midst of the tense exchange, Qiao Xian found herself caught in the crossfire of accusations. Maintaining her composure, Qiao Xian intervened calmly, you both hold differing perspectives. Was there anyone else present to witness the incident? No, Mrs. Guan responded bluntly, without a moment's hesitation. The absence of a third party only reveals her true nature. Ha! If there were a witness, they'd surely uphold their dignity, wouldn't they? Mrs. Jia's eyes widened. Was Mrs. Guan indirectly insinuating something about her? It seemed everything was spiraling because of her. That's a challenging situation, Qiao Xian remarked. The absence of a third party means lack of evidence, rendering both your accounts inconclusive. Fan Ruyan interjected with a smile, it seems you might be exhibiting some bias, Madame Xiao. One can't help but understand Mrs. Guan's skepticism. After all, Lord Xiao's reputation as an upright public official is widely known. But are you trying to cover something up? Qiao Xian's smile remained enigmatic. What are you implying, Mrs. Bai? I wouldn't dare to presume too much in your presence. But it's unlikely that Mrs. Guan would simply discard a jade bracelet worth hundreds of taels of silver. It's more plausible that the altercation resulted from a disagreement, perhaps even an accidental push. Surely, you wouldn't exhibit bias towards Mrs. Jia simply because of her status as the deputy prefect's wife, would you? But we must ensure Mrs. Jia isn't unjustly accused. With differing testimonies and no third-party witness, it's unjust to favor either party. What do you mean by something unreasonable? Aren't unexpected events a part of life? Some may feel wronged and resort to framing others. Do you deny the existence of such individuals? I must also inquire, Mrs. Bai, why such evident bias towards Mrs. Guan? Are you deliberately stirring up trouble? Silence fell upon the gathering. Qiao Xian's unexpected outburst directed at Mrs. Bai left everyone taken aback, implicating her in the conflict. Mrs. Guan smirked inwardly, amused by Qiao Xian's apparent lapse in judgment. How could she involve Mrs. Bai like this? As anticipated, Mrs. Bai bristled with indignation. I merely sought to express a balanced perspective. Why accuse me, Madame Xiao? I find your stance anything but impartial. Without a witness, what basis do you have for your claims? Just because you're Mrs. Bai? Qiao Xian's tone sharpened with each word. Madame Xiao, please refrain from overstepping, Mrs. Bai retorted sharply. What? You're allowed to make snide remarks and unfounded accusations, but I can't speak up. Overstepping? How dare you speak to me, the prefect's wife, in such a manner? Qiao Xian's voice dripped with indignation. Euro, sister. First Madame Fan intervened, sensing the escalating tension. Madame Xiao, this is all a misunderstanding. Euro, there's no room for misunderstanding, I'm all ears, Qiao Xian declared icily. Mrs. Bai, apologize. You want me to apologize? Mrs. Bai's disbelief was palpable, her expression incredulous. Fan Ruyan was flabbergasted. She jabbed her finger accusingly. How dare Qiao Xian publicly ridicule her and demand an apology, even if she was sowing discord? Couldn't she allow others to voice their concerns when faced with injustice? Fan Ruyan practically steamed with indignation. Yuyuro, why? You've shown blatant disrespect towards me. Qiao Xian's sneer dripped with disdain. I've tolerated your behavior for the sake of the Fan family, but your audacity knows no bounds. Do you believe I have no patience? Or perhaps you believe the Fan family wields unchecked authority in An's province? Yuyuro, apologize. Otherwise, don't expect me to show you any courtesy. Chapter 1849, Impudence, in Your Dreams. Fan Ruyan's voice reverberated, laced with defiance. How dare you? A collective gasp swept through the room as everyone held their breath, their hearts quivering with tension. It was evident to all present that Fan Ruyan had crossed a line. The altercation was none of her concern. She could have simply observed from the sidelines. Instead, she chose to instigate trouble. Who would sympathize with someone openly defiant? It was only fitting for the prefect's wife to rebuke her. Yet, Fan Ruyan seemed incapable of restraint, escalating the situation further. Was she eager to hand her adversaries ammunition against her? This was an unexpected turn of events. Those anticipating embarrassment for Fan Ruyan found themselves pleasantly superseded, while many were eager spectators of the unfolding drama, their satisfaction outweighing any concern for the parties involved. First, Madame Fan harbored no fondness for the prefect's wife, but her disdain for her sister-in-law ran deeper still. Exchanging a knowing glance with second Mrs. Fan, she rose to defuse the tension. Madame Xiao, my sister is known for her forthright nature. She did not intend any disrespect towards you. Please forgive her. Sister, please refrain. Let's not exacerbate the situation with rash behavior. Yes, let's focus on Mrs. Guan and Mrs. Jia's matter. Mrs. Guan's satisfaction was palpable. She relished the prospect of Qiao Xian and the Fan family amplifying the dispute. I am in no rush, nor do I seek retribution against Mrs. Bai. First Madame Fan and second Mrs. Fan seethed with anger, eager to silence Mrs. Guan. Her words played right into Fan Ruyan's hands, yet Qiao Xian remained unfazed. Mrs. Bai, are you behaving like a child? How dare you speak rudely and spout nonsense before me? Must I endure the Fan family's brashness and allow you to demean me? Fan Ruyan, I am not obliged to tolerate your insolence. Apologize sincerely and refrain from such behavior in the future. That will resolve this matter. Other Wuxia, Fan Ruyan was on the verge of losing her composure. Her sister-in-law's attempts to intervene fell on deaf ears. Otherwise, what? What do you intend to do? This is the Fan family. Do you think you can bully us too? Heh, first Madame Fan, second Mrs. Fan, did you hear that? The Fan family truly holds sway here. They aren't just forthright, they're domineering. Lixia, teach her a lesson. Understood, madam. Before anyone could react, Lixia advanced and delivered a resounding slap to Fan Ruyan's face. The room fell into stunned silence as everyone processed the unexpected turn of events. Pa! Another sharp slap resounded as Lixia struck Fan Ruyan's other cheek. Ah! Fan Ruyan's shriek pierced the air as she lunged at Lixia, consumed by fury. How dare you strike me? First Madame Fan and second Mrs. Fan rushed to restrain her, urging her to calm down. No. Stay composed. Someone, come quickly. Release me. Fan Ruyan's arrogance was well known, as was her propensity for openly clashing with her sister-in-laws. However, owing to her mother's favoritism, she typically emerged victorious regardless of the circumstances. Years of such dynamics had shaped her into a particular kind of individual. Qiao Xian's words had ignited a simmering rage within her, and the two slaps had pushed her beyond rationality. Her cheeks burned with humiliation, her mind ablaze with fury. She was consumed by an overwhelming desire for retaliation. Even the prefect's wife could not degrade her in such a manner. Chapter 1850, impulse Fan Ruyan writhed in resistance, her gaze fixed on Qiao Xian with defiance. Qiao Xian's voice sliced through the tension, cold and unyielding. Apologize. How dare you glare at me? Do you intend to strike me? Release her and let her offer her apology. But they couldn't simply release her. First Madame Fan instructed someone to escort Fan Ruyan away, but Qiao Xian intervened. Halt. Fan Ruyan will not depart until she has extended her apology. How dare you? Do you show no regard for me, the prefect's wife? First Madame Fan faltered. Madame Xiao, Ayuro, her sister-in-law, had long been accustomed to having her way. Previously, the prefect's wife held little sway in her presence. Therefore, in a reflexive attempt to prevent any further embarrassment to the Fan family, First Madame Fan sought to defuse the situation by attending to her sister-in-law's needs, disregarding any potential offense to the prefect's wife. However, while she chose to overlook it, Qiao Xian did not. Qiao Xian had heard of the treatment received by previous prefects' spouses in An's province. She felt both incredulous and disheartened. Those dispatched here for administrative duties lacked influential connections. They were compelled to rely on the local elite families. Even if they suffered hidden injustices, they could do naught but endure. However, she couldn't let such an incident pass unchallenged. Release her. Qiao Xian's command sliced through the tension like a blade. The two maids, already apprehensive of their mistress, trembled under Qiao Xian's stern rebuke. They relinquished their hold, allowing Fan Ruyan to break free and rush toward Qiao Xian. In the midst of gasps and murmurs from the onlookers, Qiao Xian raised an imperious hand. With a frigid gaze fixed on her, Fan Ruyan's arm froze midair. The sight of Qiao Xian's icy composure instilled a sudden fear in her, halting the intended strike. Caught between impulse and apprehension, Fan Ruyan hesitated. She couldn't bring herself to carry out the slap, knowing the repercussions of assaulting the prefect's wife in public. Even her own mother's intervention would be futile if such a scene unfolded. The prefect's wife might demand an apology or even imprisonment. Fan Ruyan's arm remained rigid, neither moving forward nor retreating. She stood frozen in embarrassment and apprehension. Qiao Xian, unmoved by the spectacle, remarked coldly, "Mrs. Bai, you certainly are remarkable." First Madame Fan intervened swiftly, restraining Fan Ruyan and coaxing her to lower her hand. She recognized the folly of her impulsive action, which only served to compound her embarrassment. "Madame Xiao, please understand." It was a momentary lapse of judgment. Thankfully, she regained her senses promptly. "Please forgive her, Madame Xiao." "Sister, offer your apology to Madame Xiao." Apologizing was inevitable at this point. Her impulsive behavior had not only harmed herself but also brought disgrace upon others. First Madame Fan wished she could give her sister-in-law a sound scolding as well. Qiao Xian regarded them with contempt, sneering disdainfully. The Fan family, one of the most prominent in An's province, who wouldn't be eager to curry favor with you? Apologize? I am not worthy of such grace. Mrs. Jia, let us depart. We wouldn't want the Fan family to lament our departure and accuse us of theft. Yes, Madame Xiao. Chapter 1851, Reprimand. Aya, please reconsider. First Madame Fan and second Mrs. Fan couldn't bear to see Qiao Xian walk away like this. With so many eyes upon them, Fan Ruyan's refusal to apologize only worsened matters. If Madame Xiao sought retribution, it could spell trouble for their family. Sister, a sincere apology is in order. We acknowledge our mistake. Madame Xiao, we implore you to grant the Fan family a chance to make amends. Please, show mercy, Madame Xiao. The two madams of the Fan family were visibly distressed. With every plea for leniency, they cast pleading glances at Fan Ruyan, silently urging her to make amends swiftly. Fan Ruyan clenched her fists, her face flushing with embarrassment and frustration. She'd never felt so humiliated. Apologizing was not in her nature, especially not in front of such a crowd. But she understood the necessity of swallowing her pride in this moment to spare her family from further disgrace. Madame Xiao was notoriously vindictive, and provoking her further would only invite disaster. As she prepared to swallow her pride and issue an apology, Mrs. Guan, who had remained silent until now, interjected, "Madame Xiao, let's not escalate this any further. You're well aware of your influence. There's no need to assert dominance at every turn. This is about a bracelet, isn't it? Dragging innocent parties like Mrs. Bai into this only complicates matters. Are you attempting to manipulate the situation to your advantage, perhaps implicating Mrs. Jia? It's a cunning move, I must admit. Your strategic acumen is truly remarkable." Fan Rian adamantly refused to apologize to Qiao Xian. Instead, her eyes flashed with defiance as she retorted, "I agree. We've yet to unravel the mystery of the bracelet. Are you just going to ignore it? Enough." Qiao Xian's voice cut through the tension. "Your disrespect towards me won't go unnoticed. With all these witnesses, are you attempting to deceive or manipulate the truth? I may not hold much sway, but I won't be bullied so easily. Today's events demand seriousness. My position as the prefect's wife is at stake." Turning his gaze to Mrs. Guan, Qiao Xian's tone turned icy. "And you? Your peculiar manner of speaking betrays your arrogance. I find Mrs. Jia far more reliable than you. Why the rush? We must delve deeper into your intentions. If you doubt our Lord's judgment, feel free to appeal to the higher court, unimpeded. Why the hesitation? It's intriguing. You seem eager to dismiss this without evidence or witnesses. Your status should remind you to act with restraint. If you dare to display such rudeness and arrogance again, you'll find it insufficient." Mrs. Guan flushed with indignation. "Yu Euro, it's not your place to speak in my presence. Keep silent and step aside." "Your time will come," Qiao Xian interjected sharply. "Any further utterance from you will result in the same treatment." Furious, ashamed, and seething with anger, Mrs. Guan trembled slightly. But she dared not voice another word. If even Fan Rian could be struck, she stood no chance. To face such humiliation would be futile. A sudden realization struck her. Hadn't she once wielded arrogance and dominance just as flagrantly? Chapter 1852, not accepting as long as she found joy and contentment, the opinions of other scribes' wives were inconsequential to her. She remained indifferent, unconcerned, and apathetic. But now, with her status diminished, she experienced the discomfort of this indifference. This didn't signify regret for her past actions. Rather, she harbored resentment towards Xiao Yunduan for stripping her husband of his position as deputy prefect. Having dealt with Mrs. Guan, Qiao Xian's gaze turned coldly to Fan Rian. "Mrs. Bai, what is your course of action?" Fan Rian felt a rush of blood to her head, her mind reeling. Mrs. Guan's rebuke felt like a personal reprimand, as she had just spoken up on Fan Rian's behalf. Madame Xiao showed no mercy to the Fan family. I was mistaken. I shouldn't have acted impulsively. Madame Xiao, I beg your forgiveness. Qiao Xian sneered. Am the one seething with anger and resorting to bullying. Fan Rian shot him a glare before swiftly averting her eyes, seething with even more rage. She had struggled to utter those words, yet Qiao Xian dismissed them with disdain. His mockery only fueled her fury further. If given the chance, she would retract her apology without a moment's hesitation. Fan Rian couldn't help but feel utterly worthless in this moment. Madame Xiao's intent to provoke trouble was glaringly obvious, and the outcome would remain unchanged regardless of whether she apologized or not. So why subject herself to such humiliation willingly? Had she apologized to Mrs. Guan, Qiao Xian wouldn't have relented either way. Yet she chose to follow suit, mirroring Mrs. Guan's behavior and earning nothing but disdain. It was only when she pushed them too far that she finally offered an apology, inviting further macari. None of the madams dared to betray their emotions. Offending the Fan family was out of the question for them, and the same applied to Madame Xiao. Qiao Xian's sneer cut through the tense silence. You're insolent, overbearing, contentious, and braggadocious. Had I been even slightly weaker, you might have bested me. Do you truly believe a mere apology suffices? Will anyone dare to behave like this in my presence from now on? At the very least, they can choose not to apologize or bow, can't they? The two madams of the Fan family had initially intended to plead for leniency, but they found themselves speechless. Fan Rian's conviction that Xiao Xian was deliberately stirring up trouble only strengthened. The ladies begrudgingly acknowledged that Madame Xiao held the upper hand. After all, she was the wife of the prefect. While the Fan family wielded considerable influence, it wasn't what it used to be. In the past, they could afford to disregard the prefect's wife, but with the current holder of that position, the dynamics had shifted. Over the years, Fan Rian's haughty demeanor had alienated many. Numerous individuals harbored ill will towards her and relished in her downfall. Though they didn't vocalize their satisfaction, their expressions betrayed their sentiments. Catching sight of their smug looks only deepened Fan Rian's embarrassment. Convinced that Xiao Xian orchestrated this ordeal deliberately, Fan Rian resolved not to endure further humiliation here, regardless of the consequences. Besides, she had always been timid, preferring to shirk responsibility and foist it onto others. If she could evade blame, she would; if not, she'd simply delegate the cleanup to her two sister-in-laws without a second thought. She had no qualms about standing before her mother and berating her sister-in-laws for their perceived sluggishness and thoroughness in resolving her messes. She'd even brazenly accused them of harboring ulterior motives against her. Chapter 1853, berating it remained unchanged. Realizing she couldn't gain an upper hand and would only face humiliation, Fan Rian promptly resigned, shirking her responsibilities. Madame Xiao, if you're dissatisfied, feel free to take it up with our family. As the wife of the prefect, who could dare to oppose you? Moreover, your eloquence is unmatched. With those words, Fan Rian turned on her heels and stormed off. The two madams of the Fan family exchanged glances, their faces draining of color, their expressions contorting into a mixture of rage and disgust. Their sister-in-law's penchant for stirring up trouble had resurfaced once more, leaving them to deal with the aftermath. Dealing with other matters was one thing; after all, there was hardly anything in An's province that the Fan family couldn't handle. But tangling with the prefect's wife? That was an entirely different matter. Madame Xiao, the Fan family undeniably holds great influence in An's province. Their power is unquestionable. As the wife of the prefect, I am but a mere outsider in your esteemed family. With a disdainful sneer, Xiao Xian rose from her seat and exited alongside Mrs. Jia. Mrs. Jia's expression mirrored her dissatisfaction. The Fan family had overstepped their bounds. While it was common knowledge that the three major families were domineering, Mrs. Jia had never experienced it firsthand until now, leaving her thoroughly disheartened. Madame Xiao, please, wait, First Madame Fan interjected, attempting to defuse the tension with a smile. But Xiao Xian cut her off sharply, pointing an accusatory finger. Silence. How dare you impede me? You think I'm easy prey? Your family's insolence towards me is intolerable. You can't manage your own kin, yet you seek to control me? First Madame Fan, your motives are transparent. I didn't mean then step aside. Or face the consequences. Xiao Xian's threat hung in the air as she and Mrs. Jia departed, leaving First Madame Fan and her sister-in-law stunned. A heavy silence enveloped the room as everyone exchanged uneasy glances. They had learned their lesson. The prefect and his wife were not to be trifled with. The atmosphere in An's prefecture had shifted, and everyone realized they needed to tread carefully to avoid trouble. At least until the prefect's tenure came to an end. Meanwhile, Mrs. Guan couldn't contain her delight. The gleam in her eyes and the curve of her lips betrayed her satisfaction. She secretly hoped for discord between the Fan family and Xiao Xian, envisioning potential alliances in her favor. They might even succeed in enlisting the Mei family and the Hua family, leveraging their connections and familial ties. Unless Lord Xiao wished to stir up trouble in An's province, he would surely reconsider his stance. As Mrs. Guan entertained these thoughts, she felt a surge of satisfaction. She even entertained the possibility of her old master reclaiming the position of deputy prefect. But when First Madame Fan caught sight of the smug expression on Mrs. Guan's face, she felt a twinge of irritation, as though she had swallowed a fly. She clenched her teeth, cursing silently. If only she hadn't caused such a commotion, things wouldn't have spiraled out of control like this. First Madame Fan couldn't tolerate Mrs. Guan's gloating any longer, so she sighed and addressed her. I didn't anticipate things unfolding like this. You'll need to take care of your bracelet. Mrs. Guan's smile faltered, her heart sinking. 400 taels of silver. That was no small sum. Forced to maintain her composure, she responded, Thank you for the reminder, First Madame Fan. I cannot bear this loss alone. I must seek compensation from someone. Chapter 1854, You're too much today. First Madame Fan's smile was tinged with irony. Compensation? Who would she seek compensation from without evidence? Unless Madame Xiao intervened and pressured Mrs. Jia into admitting defeat. But was that a feasible outcome? Madame Xiao had stormed out in a fit of anger, signaling the end of the banquet. The two madams of the Fan family offered profuse apologies. Second Mrs. Fan escorted them out, while First Madame Fan hastened to find Fan Rian. Meanwhile, Old Lady Fan was enjoying her lunch. Fan Rian, always mindful of her mother's needs, wouldn't dare disturb her during this time. Hence, First Madame Fan easily intercepted her in her chamber. The atmosphere in the room was tense and subdued. The maidservants held their breaths, cowering in fear, their heads bowed in anticipation of reprimand. Fan Rian shot a glare at First Madame Fan. Sister-in-law, what brings you here? Have you dealt with that troublemaker? First Madame Fan's lips curved into a sneer. Troublemaker? It seems you're the one causing the most trouble. All of you, leave, she commanded the maidservants. Casting furtive glances at Fan Rian, the maidservants discerned her dark expression but obediently complied, hastening to vacate the room. First Madame Fan's voice sliced through the tension like ice. You've crossed a line. What did you just say? Euro, Fan Rian began, her voice rising. Silence. First Madame Fan's palm crashed down on the coffee table, her tone scathing. Fan Rian, you are a member of the Fan family, show some restraint. If you're capable of causing trouble, then resolve it yourself. I owe you nothing. I'll clean up your mess when we return. I've had enough of your antics. Any mishap today will spell disaster for the Fan family. Are you oblivious to that fact? And what noble intentions does Mrs. Guan harbor? Her husband faltered due to his own shortcomings, and now she seeks to stir up trouble without cause. What's your stake in this? What makes you so special? Now that things have soured, you plan to abandon ship, leaving the fallout for me and second sister-in-law to handle? Your scheme is quite cunning. Euro, Fan Rian stammered, her eyes wide with disbelief, her breaths coming in ragged gasps. She struggled to formulate a response, taken aback by her sister-in-law's audacity. First Madame Fan relished the shock on Fan Rian's face. Let me make this clear, I won't assist you in resolving this mess today. Go apologize to Madame Xiao. And make sure you do it with genuine humility and sincerity. Don't forget, you're meant to beg for forgiveness, not disgust her. Shut up. Fan Rian's scream reverberated, her chest heaving with emotion. How dare you speak to me like that? Why wouldn't I? First Madame Fan's voice remained cold and composed. I'm your sister-in-law and the senior daughter-in-law of the Fan family. You've implicated the entire family, so why shouldn't I hold you accountable? Fan Rian, Euro in theory, this response seemed justified, but to Fan Rian, it felt like a scathing rebuke. She seethed with anger, struggling to find a rebuttal. As she opened her mouth to retaliate, she realized she couldn't articulate the pent-up frustration and hurt within her. A pang of anguish pierced her heart, and a sense of injustice washed over her. Euro, you always pretend to be righteous and virtuous, but I never imagined you harbored such thoughts. I see now. You've despised me all along, eager to rid me from this household. But this is my family too. My mother wanted me to stay. Who are you to look down on me? You think you can control me? No chance. With tears streaming down her cheeks, Fan Rian sniffled and wiped her eyes. Turning on her heels, she fled straight to Old Lady Fan's quarters. Chapter 1855. Let her sue. First Madame Fan's lips curved into a cold smile as she leisurely sipped her tea. First Madame Fan and second Mrs. Yuezheng couldn't shake off their nerves when Fan Rian threatened to seek Old Lady Fan's intervention. They dreaded the prospect of having to bow their heads, no matter how unjust they felt, fearing that Fan Rian would escalate the matter to Old Lady Fan. Yet today, First Madame Fan chose to disregard it, showing a remarkable indifference. She was free to act as she pleased. Madame Lady Qiao had endured years of grievances. Could she be expected to endure them indefinitely? Old Lady Fan was still robust and healthy, potentially living for another decade or even two. But Madame Lady Qiao refused to tolerate this suffering any longer. It was time to confront the situation head-on and chart a new course for herself. From now on, whoever instigated trouble would be responsible for resolving it. After draining her tea, First Madame Fan received Old Lady Fan's invitation. She offered a polite smile. "I'll be there shortly. Please wait for me." Before seeking out Fan Rian, she had dispatched someone to summon the two patriarchs back. She intended to address the issue in their presence. Both of the Fan family's patriarchs were present at the shop when they received word of an urgent matter at home. Without hesitation, they hastened back to the residence. Accompanied by First Madame Fan and Second Mrs. Fan, they proceeded to Old Lady Fan's chambers. Fan Rian had been nestled in Old Lady Fan's embrace, her tears flowing freely, eliciting a pang of sympathy from the elderly matriarch. Angrily awaiting First Madame Fan's arrival, she expected retribution for her grievances. Yet, to her surprise, no one responded to her calls, despite repeating them 3 or 4 times. Exhausted from her tearful ordeal, Fan Rian's eyes were now bloodshot as she cast a venomous glare at First Madame Fan upon her entrance. Meanwhile, Old Lady Fan's fury reached a boiling point as she scolded, "Your temper is intolerable. You're meant to be the matriarch of this household, yet I can't even summon you. This is unacceptable." The first Old Master Fan was taken aback. "Mother, what's happened? Have the audacity to ask. Inquire about your daughter-in-law's actions." Old Lady Fan bellowed furiously. "Kneel." First Madame Fan's lip curled into a disdainful sneer. "Is it not excessive to show such bias? Listen. Listen." Old Lady Fan's voice trembled with emotion. "Observe closely, she's on the verge of rebellion." First Madame Fan's voice rang out, determined and resolute. "Old Lady Fan, you must hear me out. If you refuse to listen and insist on blaming me, believing I'm faultless and never at fault, then why don't we part ways? I won't dare to intervene in any family matters anymore." "What did you just say?" "Elder sister-in-law. You're defying authority." A Euro chaos reigned within the Fan clan. Amidst the turmoil, Fan Rian's tears flowed anew, a sense of injustice overwhelming her. She lamented her plight, bemoaning how her mother had kept her at home out of love and filial piety, only for her to become a target of scorn and unwanted trouble. Old Lady Fan seethed with fury at her eldest daughter-in-law's insubordination. Instead of humbling herself and seeking forgiveness, she brazenly suggested a split. It was outright rebellion, further compounded by her incessant shouts and rebukes. First Madame Fan couldn't hold back her tears, recalling the years of grievances she endured. Second Mrs. Fan, initially inclined to reason with her, found herself overwhelmed with empathy, sharing in her sorrow. The two patriarchs of the Fan family attempted to intervene, but found themselves at a loss for words, wishing they had more mouths to speak with. They were exhausted and overwhelmed. In times past, such a situation had never arisen. First Madame Fan and Second Mrs. Fan would capitulate, bowing their heads in submission, offering apologies and assurances. Once Old Lady Fan had finished reprimanding them, she would show mercy and extend forgiveness, bringing an end to the ordeal. Chapter 1856, fainted this time. First Madame Fan and Second Mrs. Fan clenched their jaws, refusing to offer apologies. Surrendering now would mean a lifetime of submission. Old Lady Fan, unaccustomed to such defiance, was profoundly affected by their refusal. So consumed with rage was she that she collapsed before she could regain her breath. The room descended into chaos once more. Mother! Mother! Help! Ah! Mother! Someone! We need help. Fetch a doctor. Fan Rian shook Madame Lady Qiao and cried out, Mother! Then, without a second thought, she turned towards First Madame Fan and slapped her across the face. This is all because of you. First Madame Fan seized her hand and retaliated with a fierce slap, causing Fan Rian to recoil in pain. She pointed accusingly. Enough. If you hadn't caused trouble, none of this would have happened. You show no remorse and only grow more insolent. Take a good look at yourself. Tears streamed down Fan Rian's cheeks. Elder brother, second brother, are you going to stand idly by while I'm treated like this? Are you failing Mother? You're the one who provoked Mother to this point, yet you have the audacity to shed tears? Why? Not content with provoking Mother, you've also incited your brothers? Fan Rian, you've caused utter chaos. Euro, enough arguing. First Old Master Fan's voice trembled with distress. With a stern expression, he added, Mother is in this state, and yet you're still bickering. If anyone persists in arguing, leave this room. First Madame Fan fell silent, heeding her father-in-law's words. However, Fan Rian couldn't shake the feeling that despite not being singled out by name, her elder brother's admonishment was directed at her. He had never reprimanded her like this before. In the past, he would have comforted her long ago. Feeling a surge of resentment and sorrow, Fan Rian ceased her protests but remained seated, tears still streaming down her cheeks. First Old Master Fan's distress deepened at the sight. He called out twice for her to stop crying, but Fan Rian ignored him, her sobbing unabated. Furrowing his brow, First Old Master Fan grew increasingly frustrated. She wasn't a young teenager but a woman in her 30s. What reason did she have to cry? The doctor would arrive soon, but she refused to leave, making it difficult for others to attend to her. First Madame Fan's words cut through the air with icy precision. You'll cry too when the doctor arrives. Let everyone witness how the lady of the Fan family appears when she sheds tears. Fan Rian's tears ceased, replaced by a glare fixed on First Madame Fan. Thankfully, Old Lady Fan's fainting spell was merely due to a temporary lack of blood flow. The doctor administered medication to cool her system and alleviate liver discomfort, advising her to maintain a light diet and avoid anger. With his instructions given, he took his leave. A collective sigh of relief filled the room. Upon regaining consciousness, Old Lady Fan cast a piercing gaze at First Madame Fan and Second Mrs. Yuezheng. First Old Master Fan, seeking to console her, inquired about the day's events. His inquiry only served to reignite Old Lady Fan's ire. She rebuked him for his lack of filial piety, questioning why he would bother to ask. Shouldn't he be focusing on teaching First Madame Fan a lesson and compelling her to kneel and apologize? Furthermore, his second son's wife was not to be spared either. It was high time she faced consequences too. First Madame Fan's demeanor turned grave. Mother, if we don't explain today's events, it will spell trouble for the entire Fan family. Are you certain you don't wish to hear it? The two patriarchs of the Fan family were taken aback by the gravity of the situation. Chapter 1857, Not backing down. Fan Rian's voice reverberated, charged with indignation. Stop trying to frighten Mother. She's just recovered, and you're scaring her again. What's your intention? No one can match your skills, can they? First Madame Fan retorted with a sneer. Over the years, you've engaged in plenty of such antics. I don't wish to dwell on the past, but today's events must be clarified. Moving forward, there must be order in this household. Suddenly, Fan Rian turned towards Old Lady Fan, her expression pleading. You're defying authority. Mother, please don't be upset. First Old Master Fan intervened hastily. Why don't you hear them out first? Then we can discuss how to address the situation. What do you say? Let's not let anger cloud our judgment. Second Old Master Fan added his voice to the plea. Indeed, mother. If you faint again, it will harm your health. Wary of any further physical strain, old lady Fan shot a fierce glare at the two patriarchs but managed to suppress her anger. Fine, tell me. I want to hear your side of the story. Otherwise, you might think him showing favoritism and not allowing you to speak. Internally, First Madam Fan couldn't help but think, how self-righteous you are. Do you not realize your own bias? First Madam Fan recounted the events of the day, detailing every occurrence. Fan Ruyan, caught off guard by her mother's acquiescence, simmered with frustration, itching to interject and offer rebuttals. Yet, she knew it was futile. First Madam Fan was too enraged to heed any pleas for silence. But even as Fan Ruyan bristled, First Old Master Fan's attempts to intervene fell on deaf ears. She wouldn't listen to him, let alone First Madam Fan. Old Lady Fan remained impassive, her expression cool and detached, offering no indication of stopping Fan Ruyan's impending outburst. Finally, First Madam Fan concluded her account, visibly drained. Madame Xiao stormed off today, incensed. Lord Xiao has garnered considerable support in An's province. His methods are well known, and we stand no chance against him. Even if we remain unconvinced, resistance is futile. None can deny the implications of Madame Xiao's departure. It's clear I acted deliberately. We must consider the potential repercussions of provoking her wrath. As officials, they hold power over us as citizens. Our Fan family is no match for Lord Xiao in a direct confrontation. Sister-in-law acted rashly. I urged her to retract and apologize. What's wrong with that? Direct apology signifies genuine remorse. Fan Ruyan sneered. Sister-in-law, are you so easily rattled by mere words? Ridiculous. Our Fan family is flourishing, abiding by the laws of the Qin dynasty. The prefect should tread carefully before crossing U.S. As for me, I simply believe Mrs. Guan speaks the truth. Is it wrong to defend her? Otherwise, Madame Xiao may well side with Mrs. Jia. Humph. She can voice her opinions, yet I can't. How tyrannical. She's narrow-minded and incapable of accepting differing viewpoints. And somehow, it's my fault? Sister-in-law, your bias couldn't be more apparent. Don't forget, we're family. Don't forget that Xiao just humiliated our family. Even if you cozy up to him like this, he might still harbor disdain for you. I can sense your disdain for me growing stronger by the day. First Madam Fan was left speechless. She felt a surge of both anger and anxiety. She hadn't anticipated her sister-in-law's obstinance. She could twist the truth so convincingly, painting herself as the defender of the Fan family while portraying First Madam Fan as the betrayer. Chapter 1858, confounded First Old Master Fan and the others were left utterly speechless. The two patriarchs of the Fan family had no grievances about their detention in the prefect's office. Even if they did, they dared not voice them. After all, Lord Xiao was aware of their situation. Though the fine of 1,000 taels of silver was burdensome, they didn't dare to protest. Their sister shouldn't have provoked Madame Xiao like Theta Euro. What's the point? The Fan family had ample goods to sell, and they were already busy enough. If officials kept hindering their work with constant scrutiny, their stock would pile up in the warehouses, risking spoilage. The Fan family couldn't afford such losses. First Old Master Fan couldn't help but chide Fan Ruyan, feeling she was being stubborn for no reason. There was nothing to gain from angering Madame Xiao Euro. Second Old Master Fan echoed his sentiments. Second Mrs. Fan secretly concurred with her husband's assessment. Fan Ruyan, seething with anger, launched into another tirade, accusing them of looking down on her and plotting to exile her. The siblings and sister-in-law found themselves embroiled in yet another heated argument. Old Lady Fan, incensed by her daughters-in-law's defiance, cared not for right or wrong. Since they dared to oppose her today, she resolved to teach them a harsh lesson. What was so impressive about Madame Xiao, anyway? Ruyan had a point. Was she entitled to be biased and silence dissent? Furthermore, today's banquet seemed designed to antagonize her. They wanted her to understand that the Fan clan wouldn't tolerate disrespect. Lord Xiao hadn't demanded anything from the Fan family. Had the Fan family demanded anything from him? He had no right to disgrace them. Old Lady Fan scolded her son and daughter-in-law, siding with Fan Ruyan. Not only did she refrain from blaming her, but she also offered comfort. Instead, she chastised First Madame Fan for making a mountain out of a molehill, questioning her motives. First Madame Fan nearly exploded with fury. The two patriarchs felt a chill in their hearts. They hadn't anticipated their sister's confusion or their mother's befuddlement. Didn't they realize an arm couldn't compare to a thigh? First Madame Fan cautioned them that allowing her to persist would embolden her further. Sooner or later, she'd lead the Fan family astray. Consequently, they tacitly agreed not to yield this time. Since First Madame Fan had made the first move, there was no need to capitulate. They might as well crush her outright to prevent future regrets. Deep down, the two brothers harbored long-standing dissatisfaction with their sister. For years, their mother had wielded authoritarian control, making decisions without question. Yet, this sister of theirs persistently caused trouble. After enduring so much, anyone would reach their breaking point. Since the dam had burst today, there was no reason to plug the hole. Both families were resolute. Initially furious, Old Lady Fan soon found herself powerless after several rounds of argument. Continuing to shield her daughter would only drive a wedge between her and her Sansayuro, a scenario Old Lady Fan dreaded. Her expression darkened, and she remained silent. Fan Ruyan excelled at manipulation and sophistry. In terms of logic, she couldn't hold a candle to her. No matter how vehemently she argued she was aiding Xiao Xian or that Xiao Xian was being petty, it wouldn't change the fact that she had offended the prefect's wife, potentially putting the Fan family in jeopardy. It fell upon her to rectify this mess. No one was obligated to come to her defense. In short, First Madame Fan and Second Mrs. Fan were prepared to resign this time. Chapter 1859. This must be Lord Xiao's counterattack, of course. Fan Ruyan refused to admit fault and apologize. Instead, she resumed crying, lamenting how her brother and sister-in-law were cruel and heartless. It was evident they didn't regard her as family and were purposefully tormenting her. The situation descended into chaos. In the end, everyone was exasperated, and the matter remained unresolved. No one was content. First Old Master Fan and Second Old Master Fan felt too ashamed to compel their wives to apologize on behalf of their sister. None of their actions made sense. They were at an impasse, but little did they know, news of the dispute had spread. The following day, thugs descended upon the Fan family's rice shop, silk shop, restaurant, and several other establishments, disrupting business operations. The shopkeeper, known for his temper, clashed with the intruders, further aggravating the situation. He reported the incident to the authorities, but help arrived slowly from the yamen. By the time officials arrived, the troublemakers had dispersed. Instead of apprehending them, the officials interrogated the shopkeeper with grave expressions. The majority of the Fan family's shopkeepers and workers, filled with confidence and pride, possessed less than pleasant temperaments. Witnessing the authorities' lack of action, they couldn't help but express their frustration in a manner lacking decorum. In the end, the officials erupted in anger, chastising them for being too arrogant and lawless. It became evident that the Fan family was just as haughty. If they were so superior, why not don their official attire and act as they pleased within the government office? The shopkeeper and his assistants were utterly bewildered by the situation. It dawned on them only then that the prefect was no longer the prefect, and the government office had undergone a transformation. Quickly, they offered profuse apologies, trying to rectify the situation. They were scolded without cause and warned to conduct themselves as businessmen, to eschew arrogance and domineering behavior. After all, being amiable was the key to profitability, wasn't it? The officials' tyrannical and unreasonable behavior before them hinted at how they might treat ordinary customers. Even if it was a shop belonging to the prestigious Fan clan, they were expected to adhere to established regulations. An's prefecture city was not theirs to dictate terms. These words were spoken publicly, and countless bystanders absorbed them. The shop assistant felt dumbfounded and a tad fearful. He couldn't fathom why these officials were behaving so audaciously in the esteemed Fan family's establishment. Why didn't they show him any respect? However, the shopkeeper grasped the gravity of the situation and grew uneasy. It was clear that the main branch had somehow offended the former prefect. This was ominous. Bowing deeply, the shopkeeper issued apologies, eager to usher the officials away swiftly. He dared not meet the gaze of onlookers or engage in hushed conversations. After entrusting the shop to his staff, the shopkeeper hastened to the Fan family residence to deliver his report. Still unaware of the events transpiring, the family needed to be informed promptly, regardless of the importance of the matter. They needed a strategy. Several other shopkeepers had the same notion. It felt somewhat awkward for everyone to convene at the main household. As they exchanged accounts of what had occurred, an air of unease settled over the group. The hearts of first Old Master Fan and second Old Master Fan sank. This was undoubtedly Lord Xiao's retaliatory strike. Madame Xiao had been mistreated and embarrassed, prompting Lord Xiao to launch a swift counteroffensive against the Fan family. Otherwise, it was too coincidental for those troublemakers to disrupt business at the Fan family shops today. Dependent on the government for their livelihoods, those thugs wouldn't dare disregard the casual, indifferent hints from a constable. Chapter 1860, clearly a troublemaker. Furthermore, highway robbery seemed to be a favored pastime for those scoundrels. It wouldn't do to air their dirty laundry in public. How could first Old Master Fan and second Old Master Fan confess to the shopkeepers that their sister had provoked Madame Xiao, leading to her retaliatory actions? All they could do was offer reassurance to the shopkeepers, urging them not to fret. If the issue wasn't significant, the Fan family would resolve it swiftly. However, to forestall any potential trouble, they would advise their employees to be more alert and proactive. Moreover, they should strive to avoid confrontation. If troublemakers showed up, they should be promptly escorted off the premises, regardless of the cost. Upon hearing this, the shopkeepers grew increasingly uneasy. They were astute individuals who could discern that something significant must have occurred. The more evasive their employers' responses, the graver the situation. Exchanging glances, the shopkeepers refrained from asking further questions. With the proprietors adopting such a stance, even if they inquired, they wouldn't receive the true reason. Thus, they resigned themselves to following their boss's instructions. Once the shopkeepers had departed, the expressions of the two old masters of the Fan family soured, their anger bubbling to the surface. How could this happen? Why are you so surprised? Second Old Master Fan cast a glance at his elder brother. That's Madame Xiao for you. Can Lord Xiao tolerate someone bullying or humiliating his wife? It's no different from a slap in the face. And perhaps he's harbored animosity toward our family for some time. This time, he even went out of his way to give them a handle against him. Sister-in-law may have a point. Sigh. But was she really a sister? She seemed more like a troublemaker. It wasn't just a matter of tolerating or despising her, it was about acting in the family's best interest. She'd always been headstrong, disregarding the consequences of her actions. In the past, that was acceptable. After all, in Anne's province, the Fan family didn't need to kowtow to anyone. Even now, they didn't need to. Except for Lord Xiao, who was different from previous prefect lords. But to provoke someone they couldn't afford to offend? Wasn't that reckless? What could the Fan family do? Lord Xiao had wealth, power, and held a significant government position. Did she lack common sense? The brothers couldn't speak ill of their sister too much. After a sigh and some discussion, they sought out their mother. Old Lady Fan was both shocked and furious upon hearing the news. This Lord Xiao is despicable. He's abusing his authority for personal vendettas, using his position to exact revenge. Is there no justice in this world? Does he think the Fan family is an easy target? The two brothers exchanged silent glances. It seemed they understood the roots of their sister's temperament. Blaming her alone wasn't entirely fair. Mom, let's handle this quietly. Don't spread the word. Lord Xiao might not be involved, First Old Master Fan suggested. Humph. Old Lady Fan scoffed. Do you think I'm naive? I can see through it. First Old Master Fan rubbed his tired forehead. Even if that's the case, without evidence, accusing an official falsely is a serious offense. When Lord Xiao sends officials to our door to arrest or punish, it'll be within his rights. Old Lady Fan was about to rail against Lord Xiao, but she halted, realizing that Lord Xiao was quite audacious. Chapter 1861, Is the Fan family that shameless? Is there no one who can rein him in? Old Lady Fan expressed her dissatisfaction. Then, a sneer crossed her face. He's just a disgraced official banished from the capital. I've heard he's clashed with the nobility there and holds a middling position. Who doesn't know his background, and who fears him? Prepare a lavish gift and head to Huaishi province to meet the Lord. Let's see how he reacts when we bring Lord Xiao down. I'm curious to know. The two old masters exchanged puzzled glances. What was their mother thinking? An's province was the most remote region in Huaishi province, separated by rugged mountains and difficult terrain. It had long been infested with bandits, earning a reputation as a lawless area. The provincial capital rarely paid it any attention. Even taxes were scarcely collected. The local officials were hardly ever bothered unless something major happened. Sending them to the provincial capital to confront the prefectural magistrate seemed like a fool's errand. The magistrate would likely be grateful as long as nothing went wrong in An's province. Touching the affairs of An's province would be the last thing on his mind. It seemed rather impractical and futile for the Fan family to try to assert themselves in this manner. The Fan family held considerable influence in An's province, but their power didn't extend as easily to the provincial capital. Gaining access to the prefectural magistrate's office, let alone influencing his decisions, would be no simple feat. Had their mother lost her senses? First Old Master Fan and Second Old Master Fan felt a heavy sense of dismay. What was driving their mother to confront the prefect lord so boldly? Was she prepared to engage in a battle of wills with such a powerful figure? Mother, we must consider this carefully, First Old Master Fan began, attempting to reason with her. Our family lacks the necessary connections with the prefect lord. It won't be easy to sway his decisions. We need to approach this situation with caution. Old Lady Fan's tone turned icy. I understand your concerns. You think him being meddlesome and rash. But can't you see that Prefect Xiao is deliberately targeting our family? First, he detained you, then he imposed a hefty fine. Madame Xiao is clearly stirring up trouble and using it as an excuse to interfere with our family's business. Do you truly believe that a mere apology will suffice? I agree, Second Old Master Fan interjected. This prefect seems incredibly vindictive. He won't be satisfied until he sees the downfall of our family. And he can easily find any excuse to target us. Why should we willingly subject ourselves to his bullying? You need to rein in your temper. Old Lady Fan bristled at her son's retort. Don't talk back to me. I mean no disrespect, Mother, Second Old Master Fan responded, undeterred. But let's be honest. We tried to keep this matter low-key, but it got out somehow. It's not surprising that we faced consequences. Besides, if Ruyan hadn't impulsively intervened at yesterday's banquet, things might not have escalated to this extent. Enough of your lectures. Old Lady Fan snapped. I apologize, Mother. I'll stay out of this matter as well, Second Old Master Fan conceded. But regarding your suggestion for elder brother to visit the provincial capital, I must dissent. It's not so simple to gain access to the magistrate's office. We risk only inviting further humiliation.